From the Smith Radio Studios, it's Carrie and Brian Smith. This is Smith Radio. You can tweet at Smith Radio, SMYTH Radio. And now, your host, Carrie and Brian Smith.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, my goodness, I'm about ready to have a heart attack. I told you all I was going to calm down with all the show prep and getting ready to get ready, but man, every day it seems like something.
I mean, I threw a curveball at you pretty bad.
That's okay, though. All right. Anyways, hey, welcome. This is Smith Radio. I am your co-host, Brian Smith, along with
Carrie Smith,
giving you all the late-breaking news last week, wrapping it all up, making sense of it all. We'll talk about what happened on Friday, Saturday, and, oh, man, it just dropped today on Sunday. We got some stuff we got to talk about Sunday. Just happened, breaking news. We'll get into that real quick. If this is the first time you've been on a show, welcome again, and we've got a lot of video clips that we introduced, got a lot of sound bites, got a lot of great information, a lot of stuff that you're going to hear here on Smith Radio that you will never hear anywhere else. We are military veteran talk radio. Back in the 90s, Kerry was in the Marine Corps and I was in the Air Force. We've been talking politics together, he and I, on the phone for hours and hours, marathon phone calls, 6 hours. I don't know if we've ever gone past 6 hours, but 5-6 hours at a time for the last 10, 15 years. We've been doing Smith Radio audio only for the last 4 years, and this, our 5th year, just started doing video. Thank you to all you Patreons that are part of Smith Radio Meetup Group. Thank you.
I can't believe it's been that long, or it's only been a year that we've been doing video. It seems like a majority of the duration we've been doing this has been video, but I guess not. It was a radio show for a long time. So.
Yes, and if you want to listen to audio only, oh my goodness, I forgot. Maybe I'll play a video and we'll fix that. I didn't put the camera on airplane mode.
Does that show up on the show?
If somebody calls me right now, I'm going to get really frustrated.
Oh, wow.
We'll get a hold of that in a second. Anyway, take a chance. Take a chance, folks. It's all good.
Oh,
so
it's all part of the show.
It is part of the show.
Can we answer it and talk to him on the show?
We live on the edge, folks. Live on the edge. So,
oh my goodness.
So if you want to listen to us audio only, like throughout the week or whatnot, or you want a recap of the show and listen back to us again, go to iHeartRadio. The link is iHeartSmithRadio.com, or just go to the website. There's buttons where every red button will get you to the show, either audio or video. Like and share us on Facebook, Twitter, wherever it is. And usually I'll replay this show video of the show on Facebook. So if you're watching Facebook right now, or you're watching on Facebook, the show is live Sunday evening, 5 to 8 here on Smith Radio. Just go to the website. It's live on the website or Periscope or wherever. Anyways, with the niceties said and all that out of the way, we got a jam-packed show for you. Just a couple of things that we're going to touch on. First off, we got a very special guest that's crowdfunding Building the Wall. It's a crowdfund effort to help Donald Trump build the wall. We'll see how that works out. I mean, it sounds like a phenomenal idea, and there's so many people that want to do it.
Yeah, lots of questions that will be answered.
Yes.
Straight from the horse's mouth.
And if it seems like Carrie and I might have missed something that happened on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, which I don't think we did. If we did, we were at the Phyllis Schlafly Gateway Council. There in St. Louis. We were there for the past 2 days, meeting up with all the MAGA meetups. I believe this was the first year that it was, what do they call that? When you crash, party crashers. It's the first time that the MAGA guys did a party crash with all the old fogies.
Well, I never even heard of it, and I just thought this was like a larger version of a MAGA meetup, complete with breakout sessions and meals and all that. And I just thought, oh, well, they're just kind of expanding on a MAGA meetup. No, this is a very well-established conservative Republican kind of a CPAC for the Midwest type of thing. And it's been going on for many, many years. And most of us that were there, because we had heard that Jim Hoft was coming out and Jack Posobiec and Mike Cernovich and all this, we were like, oh, you mean this is a thing?
I guess we got to be there.
Yeah, and then the people that have been going for decades are all like, so who are all these new people and why did they come with protesters?
Don't know why they come with protesters, but man, where they been? They got some great thoughts, great ideas, excellent speakers. Stefan Molyneux was there.
Yeah. James O'Keefe spoke.
Was there. Yeah, James O'Keefe was there. So we'll get into that. We'll talk about that. Phyllis Schlafly was an iconic figure of the right, the evangelical right, the pro-life. I mean, who wouldn't be pro-life? And she was one of the very first ones to endorse for president Donald J. Trump.
Right.
And during this event, they put on full display Donald Trump's record when it comes to Christians, evangelical Christians, and what we stand for as Christians. And they made the comment that Donald Trump is the most pro-life president we have ever had, and probably the biggest supporter of Christian values that we've ever had. Whether you believe he believes them or not, I don't want to get into the debate that you don't think that Trump's a Christian, okay? Because I'm not judging nobody.
Well, you'd be wrong.
Well, I went to church this morning, and this morning I was told that there's no godly, middle of the road, and ungodly. Either you're godly or ungodly, and all of us are ungodly, and the only way to get to godly is through Christ. With that being said, I'm not allowed to judge. And I'm actually going to start to come at politics a little bit slightly different because of the sermon this morning. I will no longer call Hillary Clinton a lying, crooked old hag. I'm not going to. It's not about her. It's not about Obama. And it's not about the Democrats per se. It's about the decisions they make and the policies they put in place. I'm going to stop attacking the individual person.
So instead of
gossiping and stoking the fires of sorts and just attack the decision-making process and the policies.
So a good example would be instead of calling her a liar, when she says something that is a lie, you just say, that's a lie and here's why.
Right.
Instead of saying, you're a liar, which I'm getting better at that. Right. I'm getting better at moving away from the, well, you just said a lie, so how do I respond to that? You're a liar! So I'm getting away from that.
If you say it first and you say it often, well, then you're not liar.
Well, it's just better, more professional, and probably a little bit of a higher moral standard to attack the lie and not so much the person. Because, maybe they really believed what they said.
And if she has killed somebody, then the law must get involved and prosecute her. So I'm going to stop calling her a murderer, regardless of my personal beliefs, because she hasn't been indicted, tried, or convicted. So
and us trying her and convicting her,
it's not our job.
It's just un-American.
It's un-American.
It's un-American.
But we're going to get into some great news today. This week, it almost sounds like a broken record. This week, booming economy. We've got some more great news. One of Donald Trump's econ geek guys, and I can call him a geek because he refers to himself as a geek. He's a really giddy kind of geeky guy that has he loves charts and numbers and economy stuff. And he got in front of the White House press briefing and he absolutely destroyed every single reporter in that room with fact, not fiction.
Well, he had charts and everything.
Yeah, he had great charts and everything. So we'll get into the big booming economy. Some more breaking information this week about Peter Strzok and Lisa Page that went down. It is so wretched, so awful, so bad, and I keep saying it again and again and again. But what's even worse this week is that the Department of Justice ain't doing nada. The Department of Justice is out to lunch, and Jeff Sessions out to lunch. So we'll get into that stuff a little bit. Also, Benghazi. Benghazi is in the news because, do you know why?
I thought I remembered why, but now I don't.
Barack Hussein Obama made it the news. He brought it up. Why he would bring up Benghazi right now?
It just seems like an unforced error on his part, doesn't it? And
he called it a conspiracy theory. Folks, this is off the rails. So we're going to get into that. Also, one of the survivors from Benghazi that was in the annex that charged the burning annex to help save lives. He was on Fox News, and we'll get to him and his comment, as well as Jason Chaffetz. Absolutely livid. Apparently, Jason Chaffetz, does he have a show on Fox, or is he just a regular
He's such a prolific contributor that you would think he has his own show, but he's just always they always have him on as guests.
Okay. And then we can't forget the hurricanes that happened this week. We're going to get a little bit of that. And the 3,000 dead in Puerto Rico, we will touch on that.
Yes, we will touch on that.
It's explain the numbers, Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
Carrie, you can explain the numbers to us, right?
I will explain the numbers. I'll explain why it is a bunch of mumbo jumbo.
So the media using Common Core math.
Yeah, and this is literally a great example, one of the best I've ever seen of what you may have heard of before, referred to as tortured logic.
Yes.
Tortured logic. So,
and then we'll get into the hurricane. We'll also get into we will definitely not overlook one of the biggest stories this week was the dang it, Google. We knew how awful you were and how much you hate us. We know. See, folks, nobody's shocked about how much Google hates us. It's just that they're coming out and saying it now.
Right.
And now we can see why when people are like, but why do they hate us so much? We now know why. Because they just told us this week. So we'll get into the Google campaign. Yeah, the Google campaign of 2016. It was almost like Google was a super PAC for Hillary.
For the most part.
Man.
And they also had a permanent office in the West Wing.
Yeah, wah, wah, wah. So, but breaking news right now, this Sunday, before we have our guest on, our guest will be on here in about 15 minutes. So let me hurry up and make this real quick. Judge Brett Kavanaugh, you know he's been in the news for the past couple of weeks. You know the Democrats have been hammering him. You know they have acted like Antifa during the hearings. The hearings, for those of you who don't know, the hearings are specifically it is exactly an interview where the politicians interview Donald Trump's nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, to interview him to see if they want to vote for him or not. It's a back and forth dialogue. You ask a question, he gives you an answer. Whatever is on your mind, whatever is your constituents, what is the number one concern for your constituents, and then you ask Brett Kavanaugh, and then he'll give you an answer. Also look at Brett Kavanaugh's 30 different decisions, all the different papers he's written, and his life's work. Okay. Joe DeGeneva. Well, okay, so this week, Dianne Feinstein came out, and for some reason I thought it was Nancy Pelosi, but that's why I got Carrie here.
Yeah, well, they're all the same person. Right?
You never see them in public together.
They might as well be the same person, but yeah, usually when there's an old female that is pushing for really insane liberal policies, right, you tend to think Pelosi right off the bat. But it could be Feinstein, it could be Boxer. So there are several of them out there.
Right. So
but this one was Feinstein.
So Dianne Feinstein, apparently she was given a letter by an anonymous individual that claimed that Brett Kavanaugh 37 years ago,
38, I think.
38 years ago, all the way back in high school, not college, in high school, claiming that somewhere, and I've read it, and she said sometime in the 80s, early 80s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, no.
She didn't give an exact date.
It would have been 1980, either 79 or 80.
Okay, but she didn't give an exact date, which I kind of thought was weird. But anyways, so she claims that Brett Kavanaugh and another buddy were drunk, shoved her into a bedroom. Apparently she was dressed in a bathing suit and had maybe she said she had clothing over her bathing suit, whether it be a shorts or a shirt. She didn't get into details. Pushed her into the bedroom. He apparently jumped on her while she was laying on her face down and kind of messing, groping, wrestling, whatever. And then she said that she tried to scream. He put his hand over her mouth. She thought she was going to die. Death was inevitable.
Okay.
Like she was going to die. And then, I mean, if you're 16, 17, I don't know. Anyways, so she said it ended very quickly when Brett's friend jumped on top of all of us And we all fell to the ground off the bed, and I scurried out of the room. That is her story.
Mm-hmm.
Dianne Feinstein had the letter of her story since summertime, I believe June or July, and now she threw it out. Just recently, floated this last week, went to the FBI and went, okay. So now Joe DeGenova was on a local on a radio show here recently. So this is audio only, but this is Joe DeGenova, and this is what he's saying about the Democrats' Hail Mary.
And there's still breaking news about it too. So yeah, go ahead.
Right.
First of all, she has had the letter since July.
Oh.
So this is not something new. This was given to her in July, and she has saved it for this moment because they are falling through the floor. The Democrats are. Now, first of all, many people have called this a Hail Mary pass. That is blasphemy to Our Lady. This is a Hail Lucifer pass. Yeah. This comes from the depths of despair from the Democrats. It is a sign that the Democratic Party is at the end of its wits, and it is about to be taken over by the worst elements of the American left. And apparently there are a lot of people who are just fine with that. The letter itself was given to the FBI by Senator Feinstein. She has shared it with no one, including her Democratic colleagues on the committee, and with none of the Republicans on the committee, including the chairman of the committee. So let's say that the letter is for real, that this person exists, that it was sent to the Congressional Office of Congresswoman Eshoo, who is another left-wing nut, and it was delivered to Senator Feinstein.
Don't pass judgment on nuts. Come on, man.
Let's assume it's an accurate letter. The FBI took the letter and sent it to the White House, and they said this should be included in your background file on Judge Kavanaugh. They have not launched an investigation, and they are not going to, because there's no basis for it. This is let's assume it's true. This is an allegation about an incident in high school 37 years ago. If anything happened, the statute of limitations has run, and therefore there is absolutely nothing for them to investigate because it does not impinge on anything. But I don't believe anything happened, number one, and I think the reason the person wants to remain anonymous is that she either doesn't exist or she's got problems. So, I mean, what do you do with this? This is a symptom of the derangement of the Democratic Party, and I think it's an insult to the Senate. But after watching Cory Booker the other day, why is anybody surprised?
Okay, yes, and with that saying, that interview with Joe DeGenova happened earlier this week. So,
and I should point out right this second, they did release her name today.
Right. Yeah. They've released her name. She's actually come out. It is a California professor. Go figure, right? This by the Washington Compost, a California professor.
The same kind of profession that you would be in if you wanted to take a bike lock and bash it over somebody's head in an attempt to try to murder them and get off for it.
Correct. I mean, that really did have you're a Trump supporter. Mm-hmm. Right. So California professor, writer of the confidential Brett Kavanaugh letter, speaks out about her allegations of sexual assault. Well, here's the thing. Breaking news. Senate Republicans signal they plan to move ahead anyway on Brett Kavanaugh's nomination despite decades-old sexual misconduct. And the whole article, all it does is it just details exactly what I said earlier about the allegation.
We just have to ignore it. And, this is really sad because it's the boy who cried wolf. There are women out there who actually get sexually assaulted. The reason I can come to a reasonably sure conclusion that this is fake or not true or conflated in some way, shape, or form is there are circumstantial details that call into question the allegations. But the biggest one is that this happens every freaking time somebody needs to be confirmed by the Senate and it's a Republican, or somebody gets elected and they didn't like the result.
Roy Moore.
With Roy Moore, it's somebody who's about to come up for election. This is so. I mean, how did we not predict this? I mean, I feel like an idiot. Well, you guys should sue us for journalistic malpractice for not telling you guys the day that Kavanaugh was nominated that this will be about a couple weeks to a month-long ordeal of having to decide whether or not the sexual assault accuser is telling the truth. I mean, it is so clockwork. There's like a 100% chance that you're going to have a sexual assault allegation from, and now that they can do it from many, many decades ago. We're getting close to a century now. 38 years is almost 4 decades, which is almost 5 decades, which is a half a century.
Yeah.
Which is basically your entire lifetime.
Well, not only that, but how many? I mean, there are a lot of people that don't even live to 50. Their lives are gone. People have already lived a life and moved on.
Well, and here's the thing. If he did something to this girl, what did this guy, was he just reborn and he didn't do anything with his life or didn't do anything that benefited himself, applied for jobs, have kids, have a wife, whatever? Where was the allegations at any point during this time? At any point. Oh, somebody's ringing the doorbell.
Somebody's ringing the doorbell. So, but that's the whole thing, though. We're talking about almost 50 years ago, folks. Almost 50 years ago that this went down. And we're talking about how this is the standard playbook. So hashtag me too. I'm sorry. You guys are doing
It's the boy who cried wolf.
You're doing such an injustice to women around the world who are literally raped.
Yeah, I mean, sexually assaulted in many different ways, and now you're just bringing this out to try to prevent him from getting confirmed, and it's not even going to work.
And who was, what was the football, not the football player, the actor, the bald head, the black guy, big husky dude that said he got package checked?
Oh, I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
No, but he said hashtag me too. No, Dude, you didn't get raped. No, you got package checked, bro.
Now,
come on, man.
Do you want to get package checked?
It depends.
All right.
Oh, anyway. Okay, so we got our special guest on.
Changing gears a little bit here.
I'm sorry. We'll get back into that a little bit later, but we've got our special guest on. We're talking about crowdfunding the border wall. And do you want to?
Yeah, the name of the company is American Border Foundation, and Quintin Kramer is going to be the spokesperson for this interview. And we have him on right now. Let's see if we can hear him. Is he? Yep. Oh, you can hear us, okay?
Absolutely. Glad to meet you guys.
Good. We got good sound too. Good. All right. Well, welcome to the show. And I'm going to be honest with you. I had heard something about this a little while ago, and I haven't heard much since. But when I was asked to have an interview with you, I was like, oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that. So you're going to have to brush us up on what's going on and get the word out to everybody about what's going on here.
Sure. So we actually initially became visible to the public last November, and we were sort of going through the process with the public in a sense. But effectively what happened is that we found a way that DHS could receive gifts from the public that could be tax deductible.
Wow.
And we could specify conditions so that we could actually say you can only use these funds to build the wall with.
So it's like a grant to the government.
Absolutely. It was almost like it was laid out directly for us. So we began to operationalize against that. The one thing is that the Office of General Counsel at DHS, so their lawyers, basically have to agree to our conditions. And the conditions have to be within the context of what the DHS's mission is, right? Of course, we couldn't say go and do something in a foreign country or what have you. So we approached DHS in December of last year. And at the same time, we applied for nonprofit status, which we thought was going to go pretty quick. So you may have heard of us from as far back as that, December of last year, when we kind of came to the public and said, hey, here's what we found. Here's what we're getting ready to do. And we went ahead and did those things. Unfortunately, it took us until August of this year to get the IRS approval or the determination for nonprofit status. So we sort of sat around until then because, of course, we want the donations to be tax deductible.
Okay. So you want to make sure like the 501c3 status and all that goes through. So you just answered a massive question here. which was, how can we be so sure that you're not just going to be like that woman that raised $400,000 for that homeless guy and just run off and buy a Bentley with it or something like that? So it sounds to me like this is already set aside for, you said it was the DHS?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's amazing.
That's who's responsible, ultimately, Customs and Border Patrol for actually building the wall. So they may contract to external contractors, or they might use the Army Corps of Engineers, we've seen in some recent print, but effectively DHS is responsible for spending the money to build it.
Did you know this going in, that we had a way to bypass Congress by self-funding a government project?
Nope. I mean, to a certain extent, when I first bought this domain, FundTheWall.com, it was many years ago, and we were thinking about crowdsourcing labor and materials and everything else. Once someone approached me, I kind of sat on it for a few years. Once someone approached me and said, hey, we should look at this, the first thing I did in terms of due diligence was to go and see, could we actually deliver the money? Obviously, it's a non-starter. If the only thing we could do was deliver to the General Treasury, to be quite honest, I felt like it was a non-starter, because we want to make sure that the money can only be used for the wall.
Right now, Brian is trying to set up the. No, I'm not blasting on you. I'm just saying he's trying to set up the actual for everybody to see on the screen where they should go for this. Can you tell us? All I know is the handle for Build It Now, which is 3_ JUSTYCE and then 3 more underscores. So we actually had trouble finding it at one point because we thought it was 2 underscores, but it's at ___ JUSTYCE ____. And the name of it is Build It Now. And also the website is FundTheWall.com. Is there another handle on Twitter or other places that they can go also?
Yep. So John's a volunteer with us right now, actually. So that's Justice. And so the actual Twitter handle is FundTheWall.
Oh, okay.
FundTheWall. And so that's the one that's officially, putting out information relative to nonprofit and the actual status of the project and so forth. So John's an architectural.
So that's why Fund That Wall might have been trending?
Yeah, I saw that before.
Yeah, it popped up the other day.
I was wondering. I said, who's putting Fund That Wall? Because I had seen Fund the Wall for a long time, but that makes sense now. So Fund That Wall, you can hashtag it when you're tweeting, and also you want to go to @FundThatWall to follow the proper Twitter handle in order to follow this. And also, so when you go to FundTheWall.com, there's a link there for them to do the donations. And is there a maximum? Is there a maximum that somebody could donate?
No, the only requirement that we saw from DHS is that you can't be an employee of DHS and you can't be an employee of a contractor of DHS. So we do have that in our terms and conditions, and we do a basic check against that on the way in. But other than that, there really were no other requirements that we could see. Was there pushback by them? Well, so yes. I mean, and that's one of the things that we're talking about now and why we wanted to come on your show is that when we approached them in December, their Office of General Counsel came back and said, we're investigating and trying to figure out if we can take the money. And so then we heard back from them in about April or so, and we were still waiting for the IRS, and they sort of came back, and we never heard their questions. They just said, please keep waiting. And then in July, they came back to us and said, we don't have the resources to accept, what did they say? We don't have the resources to process external donations. That was the language that they used.
Come on, man! but you got the ability to collude with Christopher Steele and Russia, but you can't take money.
Oh yeah, right. It's amazing. The thing is you're saying that the process of crowdfunding a government project, has that always been available? Always? And yet they don't have the system set up to be able to do something like that. Now, well, and we think this is the point of it to a certain extent. We could make a market for the idea that you can donate directly to DHS and attach conditions, and we could send all of America individually to DHS to get them to agree individually the conditions with each person. So all we did is simplify that, right, and wrap a nonprofit around it and say, on behalf of America, we want to negotiate this once with you and say, here, take the money for the border wall. It's literally check once a week, once a month. All you have to do is stamp it on the back and take it to the bank. Yeah, it's literally collective bargaining on behalf of the American people who want a wall built against DHS, who's going to actually receive the money. It's funny that it's almost like they're fighting having to take the money because then they'll have to do something with it. And so bypassing Congress, I really love this idea. And of course, I was extremely skeptical first, and like everybody listening will be like, wait, whoa, what are they going to do with this money? But now once that money comes through, can you tell me what platform is accepting the money? Is that like PayPal, or do you have your own, how's that coming in?
We accept PayPal, and we can take credit cards. And, of course, you can mail a check, which is going to avoid any fees from any credit card processor or anything like that.
Awesome.
And then we'll take that money straight into DHS. So it's just accumulating in a bank account right now.
Is there a goal for the amount that you need?
Well, so when we put up the original goal in November of last year, and it sort of looks funny because when you look at the site, it says we've been collecting since November of last year, but really not as a nonprofit, not with the ability to deliver to DHS. That goal is, I think, 1.25 or 1.5 billion, which we figured was just an incremental step. What we've seen recently is that there's a particular project in the Rio Grande Valley that we saw news about a week ago or a week and a half ago, that the Army Corps of Engineers may want to build that or may be contracted to build that. And there's a price tag of about $450 million on that. So we think that we'll probably reset a new goal and go to fund against that particular construction project that's discreetly identified. And then that money may go to the Corps of Engineers or may go to whatever contractor DHS picks.
How sure are you that they aren't going to be able to find a loophole to just totally take that money and do something else with it?
It's possibly true, and we'll want to make sure that as we make the first delivery that we're tracking through that. And we feel like to the extent that we've provided any funds to DHS, this organization in particular has a responsibility to make sure that it's being used on that which we've told them to. And so we expect that we'll provide service in the future that we'll be able to see on a potentially mile-by-mile basis how they're doing against the budget that they proposed, how they're doing against any construction timelines that they've told us that they were going to follow, and ultimately how the outcome of the construction is in terms of securing that section of the border.
How detailed are the stipulations you gave them? Like, what if they just do a chain link fence, or does it have to be made out of certain materials? Does it have to be a certain height? Does it have to have electric concertina wire on top?
We said for border wall construction, we want it to be very loose. It has to be a physical wall because the IRS requirement is for a public work or building or construction. And so we don't think yet that a border system, quote unquote, that involves technology necessarily falls under that, although we'll cover that in the future.
Does repairing of the current border fall into that? Because we were told that they are currently repairing and surveying new land, but currently repairing wall now. Right.
And there are two different scenarios. So from that standpoint, we definitely want to get those existing places repaired. We want to get new construction done. And we've seen, I think there was about $1.5 billion allocated, if I recall, earlier in the year that was used for new construction in New Mexico, but that was against old models. So it wasn't the 30-foot high prototypes that we've seen. And in fact, I think that all of those prototypes ultimately have issues that would create problems with long-term construction with those, or big, or I should say large-scale construction, where they can't handle big slopes and they have other problems. I'm not sure that any of those 8 will necessarily move forward.
Now, the one that I know Trump liked, and the one that I agreed with him, I liked it too, is the one that's it's got the gaps between it. It's like the steel poles with the gaps between it so you can see through the wall. Mm-hmm. I don't know. It kind of seemed like it might work pretty well, but you're saying that there might be engineering impossibilities.
Well, the USA Today actually has done a good set of articles over the last few weeks that went into detail in particular about the outcome of those prototypes. And what I found interesting over the last year is that we never really saw a successful award from those contracts. I never saw any article that said this particular vendor won. And what they found is that every single model had a problem with slopes above, I think, 30%. And every single one had different construction issues that would have caused problems, again, over large segments of construction. So I think that may end up being rebid, or maybe the Army Corps of Engineers has some other ideas, or maybe they blend everything into one supermodel that works better than all of them individually did.
What happens to the money if, and this is obviously, here's the what if scenarios, you raise $1 billion and you give it to them, and then completely separately, Congress passes a bill and it gets passed that it gets funded. What happens to that money then? Well,
so there's two scenarios. One would be what we've heard even in the last week is that potentially Congress is going to allocate $5 billion this cycle. And so that would certainly change things for us. And the American Border Foundation itself may not need to crowdfund much of anything. Instead, we would go directly into that oversight mode of making sure that whatever money they've gotten from whatever source is being spent well, and then some of the other things that we have as a mission. But I think even if they got $5 billion, there would potentially be another $20 billion behind that would still be needed over the next few years. And so if we had delivered a big chunk of money, then that could still be used in conjunction with whatever Congress did allocate. And hopefully we'll just accelerate the time frame then.
Right.
And bring the time to which it takes us to get it to, control forward.
Yeah. And in that case, the stipulations would have to change too, because maybe they allocate real money to do a majority of the construction, and then there might be additional things that you weren't even planning on that the money could go towards at that point. So
absolutely.
To
your point about being able to crowdfund government services, we think it's a great opportunity to be able to explore what are the limits here and what can we potentially fund and not fund. I mean, I don't know if it would be appropriate to go say, let's give all the CBP agents bonuses, but potentially that would be within the realm of what.
You said construction. Does that count as construction?
It counts as securing the border.
Okay.
And ultimately, it is charitable to secure the border because all Americans benefit from that, and it improves the welfare of the people at large.
Right. And think about this, folks. I mean, we elect politicians to go up to Capitol Hill, up to D.C., to do our bidding, if you will. And they're not doing our bidding. And we all know this. We all complain about this. And that's why Trump was elected, the wrecking ball that he is. And that's why we elected him to wreck it and to bring it down. But now you're saying there's an avenue where we can direct fund, and if politicians see that there's that much money coming from the people, from a private entity on a direct fund, I can't help but think that the greedy politicians wouldn't back it and want to get behind it and say, oh, okay, I see you're speaking loud and clear, because we're screaming we want the wall.
We need to put our money where our mouth is.
Right.
There you go. So have you done the math and figured out how much people have to contribute to get to your goal?
Well, the mind tends to go straight to the number of people that voted for President Trump. And so you would say those are the people that would probably be inclined to support this. There's about 63.5 million, I think, of those. Mm-hmm. So roughly that would be about $394 per voter if it were $25 billion that we had to go to. And, of course, that could be over 5 years.
That's not that much.
Well, there's going to be people that are going to have some sticker shock on that. But the thing is I mean, that's the way we got to get what we got to get, And
it's not only individuals, though. Businesses can donate.
Yeah, businesses will probably, so an individual like just Brian and I, we wouldn't maybe need to put a check for $350 if the company right down the street here puts a check in for $25,000.
Right. So if you send $20 as an individual person, or $10 or whatever,
and maybe put some on it later on,
whatever it be. You never know. If this thing starts going, I'm sure there's corporations and companies that would want to get behind it.
Well, especially since it sounds legitimate and it's tax deductible, there's going to be companies that might actually benefit from donating to this.
And those companies down there close to the border might benefit.
Right. Do you know, have you guys ever put any stipulations on engineering things such as, I always look at the border, study it carefully, and I notice, okay, between the Pacific Ocean and the Rio Grande, we need a pretty substantial physical border. You get to the Rio Grande and it's like, okay, well, you have a natural barriers. Is there any kind of detail in that kind of stuff? I honestly feel like you almost may not even need a wall per se at the river, maybe, but it would be different as opposed to just a piece of desert on either side. Mexico has desert, America has desert, in between's desert. You need a big physical wall there. So have you guys thought of those kind of considerations?
Well, we hope we can unite America around a concept of operational control of the border, and that's what the Secure Fence Act stipulates. And so that says effectively that 100% of everything is stopped, whether it's crossers, contraband, whatever it is, it gets stopped. And so that to me doesn't necessarily mean a wall from coast to coast. It means whatever you need to stop 100% of contraband and crossers, we'll give that to you. It could be technology, it could be more CBP agents, and in many cases it's going to be a wall. And so to me, that needs to be evaluated on a mile-by-mile basis. What's the right thing to do for this mile to obtain operational control?
Now, there's a lady on Twitter, and I can't check it right now because my computer is occupied.
Oh, sorry.
But
I can look.
She tweeted out and periscoped going down to the border. She went down to the border near the Rio Grande, like you were saying, and there currently is. It's a pretty nice-looking wall, but it's an older one. Concrete, maybe about 15 to 20 foot high, and then some steel sticking up that you can see through higher than that. But she went down there and took a walk down to the Rio Grande, and apparently we have already built huge. It's a huge steep cliff of rocks from our side of the Rio Grande. I mean, it was enormous. It's all loose rock. And the DHS guy was telling her it's because of erosion or whatnot. And she kept insinuating, well, it looks like it's a massive cliff. And technically it was. So, I mean, there's multiple layers that are being put in play, if you will.
You would need a 30-foot wall on top of a cliff.
No.
Probably
right.
Not, probably
so, awesome. Well, it's so I implore everybody to go to this FundTheWall.com and follow at FundThatWall on Twitter. Any other places they should be following, or is the Twitter the main point of it? And
we tend to mainly put message out on Twitter, Facebook as well. FundTheWall on Facebook.
All right, follow them with the bell, right, or is it the check or whatever? So that way you can get all the information from them, and please donate to them. And this is Quintin Kramer of the American Border Foundation, and we thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. It was great to meet you.
All right, thank you.
Take care.
Awesome. So
that was super cool, man.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so happy that this I had no idea. I had no idea that. Hi, Brian. We got the double going. All right, so
a little inside ball game for you folks
yeah,
on
you guys
video.
got to see the other side. So anyway, I think it's awesome that first of all, not only can we all know we can crowdsource whatever, but to know that the government actually had something set up to do that. I'm whoever the government official was that said we should do that. I mean, it had to happen. Somebody had to say we should allow for that. That's brilliant. That is just so brilliant. And then for them to find out that it can be done, there is a legal way to do that, and to make it tax deductible, and we have the technology to get everybody to quickly contribute to that. I think that is so awesome. And I actually heard that argument way back during, it was probably before the election. If it wasn't before, it was very shortly after, where somebody was like, man, forget Congress. They're just a bunch of do-nothing, no good,
People
whatever.
were selling bricks.
They were
Remember
selling
that?
bricks
Yeah.
and just trying to do whatever. But this is actually the right way to do it. And now, after already hearing, you know what? If every single Trump supporter that voted for Trump just donated X amount of dollars, we'd have enough to build the whole wall. Well, this is it. This is it right here. This is the time to go ahead and put to it. And go to FundTheWall.com and click on it. Get the paperwork so that if you are a business or whatever, you would like to make it tax deductible, it's all there. Brian knows how that works, right? You get when you make a tax deductible donation as a business, you gotta save the paperwork. So when you file for your IRS and all that, so if you own a business, you know what to do.
Well, yeah, give it to your accountant.
Yeah. Give it to you. There you go. That's how you do it.
Get about it. And when you go to do your own taxes, your own personal taxes, I do mine on the H&R Block thing, the program that they give me. And there's a section where I do for my church donations and the things that we give to the Salvation Army or whatever the case may be that we donate. There's a section for that there, and then you can add this to it. And so. Depending on your situation, there's you might qualify for the $12,000. It's just a generic. If you get close to a $12,000 deduction, this might put you closer to that, and you take the whole $12,000 off. So it's pretty cool. Yeah. Anyways, with that being said, the lady, and I forgive me, Debbie. She's at
Debbie Aldridge. Yeah, we know her.
At Debbie A. Aldridge, ALDRICH. Mm-hmm. And there's two A's in there, A for a middle initial and then ALDRICH. She went down to the border, went down to the wall and hung out with Border Patrol, walked the dirt trails to get down to the Rio Grande. So if you think about it, the wall is built maybe about a half mile away from the Rio Grande, and there's a dirt road on the one side facing Mexico. And they drove right up to the wall, then took a walk down to the Rio Grande, or to the cliff of the Rio Grande, which is amazing, and which is just absolutely amazing. I tell you what, why don't I just show everybody?
Yeah, just maximize it, I guess, if you can.
Yeah,
she's got a little bit of a video there. Make it so that you can skip through to see the different images. Yeah, I mean it's a river. I mean you got to cross the river. You could use a boat and all that kind of stuff, but the idea of a wall on a river could be problematic for not as necessary, but also could be problematic for nature.
So you're looking right now at the Mexico. Okay, there's the rock berm, if you will, where there's a lot of rock on our side that Border Patrol said that was to shore up the walls, but shore up the shoreline.
Well, think about it. The river is the border, so you don't want erosion to move the river. You know, rivers don't flow exactly in the same spot forever.
Right.
You could have a big flood that would actually move the river, and that could be a problem. And as a matter of fact, the Ohio River, only like a foot of the water is part of Ohio. The other whole rest of the river is in Kentucky, in around Cincinnati. But anyway.
Right. And so you're looking at the Border Patrol down on the Rio Grande. And here's the thing, folks. People can easily get in a little boat and row right across and then run up the embankment. But Debbie Aldridge was telling, in her scope, was talking about how they have cameras, they have seismometers to be able to detect if somebody's digging or
digging under it could be an issue with a wall. That's we learned that from World War II when the Nazis were trying to incarcerate everybody, and some very bold and motivated people wanted to escape, and there's a lot of stories of tunnels.
And if you're old enough to watch Hogan's Heroes, you know what
The Great Escape with McQueen,
Steve McQueen, but
yeah.
I think that's older than Hogan's Heroes.
Oh, yeah, it goes back to late 60s, I think. But anyway, they dug under. It's a true story, whatever. But they dug for hundreds of feet, and they had multiple tunnels. I think they had 3 of them. The point is that you can dig under them, but that's why we use technology to prevent that. And design. Good design can prevent too. They actually dig down quite a ways. So the wall isn't just what you see. The wall actually goes underground a little ways too. So if you want to dig under, you have to dig pretty deep.
Right. And on that note, I didn't have this in show prep. We were in St. Louis when this was reported. But apparently, if you think back to Donald Trump's State of the Union address, the phenomenal State of the Union address, it was probably one of the best ones I think I have ever heard.
I was blown away.
Oh my goodness. It's unbelievable. You talk about somebody presidential. He was not presidential. He was Donald Trump, and he laid it out there in the open.
He put Congress on blast. It was awesome.
Yeah. So, but he did recognize a mother and father. It was a black woman, a black father. Their daughter and their daughter's best friend was murdered by MS-13 gang members. And if you remember, the man was starting to cry, and the wife was crying. It was just an emotional thing. The mother this past week was at the place that her daughter was killed at 2 years to the day. Mm-hmm. So apparently she was just doing a little memorial, remembering it, and got into an argument with somebody in an SUV. And I guess the SUV ran her over and killed her.
Oh, that's such a shame.
I don't understand this. I just don't get it. Maybe it's the part of town she lives in. Something about hopefully they hold the driver of the SUV to the fullest extent. I mean, I'm just so frustrated. And the only reason why I bring that up, and it's heartbreaking, but the reason why I bring that up is she should be alive. She should be alive with her daughter. She wouldn't have been there on the sidewalk if her daughter wasn't killed by MS-13 gang members, illegal gang members that from crossing the border. This is what they do to make money. They bring human trafficking, drug trafficking, rapes, and murders. And when Donald Trump said they're bringing their worst, they're bringing their murderers, their rapists.
Yeah, that's a use of their. There's 3 different versions of their. By the way, this is not a white power symbol. By the way,
is that Illuminati?
No, it means 3 or okay.
Okay.
So anyway, there's 3 different uses of the word there, and what the fake news liars I'm not supposed to call people liars, am I? Okay, so no calling anybody liars.
If
but
they did lie to you, they're trying to fool you.
When the lie is the misinformation that they're trying to peddle, which is that he called all Mexicans rapists when he said they're rapists. Right. They are rapists. This is what they're trying to say. But that's not what he said. What he said was they're sending their rapists, T-H-E-I-R, possessive. They're not sending their best people. They're sending this, that, and the other thing, and they're sending their rapists. He didn't say Mexicans are rapists. They're rapists. No. No, he said they're sending their rapists because they're not sending their best people. So, yeah. It makes sense. I mean, if you're a leader in Mexico and you have authority to jail people, to punish them or whatever because you're in government in Mexico, if you had a chance to send your rapists out of the country permanently, I think I'd be tempted to go ahead and do that.
I mean, isn't that what England did to Australia in
that's
hundreds of years ago?
That's the rumor I heard. Hundreds of years ago, Australia was the prison for something like that.
There's a book written about it. I was forced to read it, but I can't think of that.
You're always trying to think of something. You need to write this stuff down before the show.
Well, it just hit me.
Oh, yeah. We're always just thinking of stuff.
So this weekend, folks, we had a phenomenal time. We were hanging out with Laura Loomer, Jack Posobiec. If you watch any of our tweets and if you're connected with us, look at the bottom of the screen. At Brian P. Smith and Carrie is at Smith Radio on Twitter. You can catch us there. We were scoping throughout the week. And we were hanging out in St. Louis with all the gang. Cernovich was there. Pamela Geller was there.
Stefan Molyneux. James O'Keefe.
Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk was there. Candace Owens was supposed to be there, but at the very last minute, there was something that she was working on that required her to stay longer. So I'm so glad.
We think it was with Kanye West.
It could be. I think he alluded to that, so I'm assuming that's what it was. Candace, everybody wants to hear her speak, and that's great. I would have loved to have met her, but I've never heard Charlie Kirk deliver a full speech. I was totally floored. I was amazed at how well he delivered that thing.
You talk about a millennial. Dynamic. This dude nailed it. He's 24.
He looks way older than he is, but yeah, 24. And when you're 24, that's actually a compliment. To say that you look way older than you are. Yeah. Now, when you're in your 50s or whatever, late 40s, 50s, 60s, you don't ever say that.
Carrie, you look so much older than you are.
But I don't get that, though.
Okay.
Apparently, I look just like Stefan Molyneux, who is older than me.
He was accused multiple times of the Antifa. I was going to attack him because he was...
I got a story for you. So we're out there with the protesters trying to school them and troll them and everything like that. And we're in with the protesters. And all of a sudden I hear somebody yell, there's Stefan Molyneux right there. he's a racist and blah, blah, and all this stuff.
Carrie and I were looking around for Stefan.
I'm not kidding. I looked around.
Because he was there. He was there in the hotel.
He was in the hotel, but he was not out there with Antifa. So I started looking around and I was like, where's Stefan Molyneux? And then I started looking for the person that they must have mistakenly thought was Stefan Molyneux. And it turns out, after about 10 minutes later, somebody actually told me I was Stefan Molyneux, that I realized that they were referring to me. So that I don't ask me. I don't have my hair shaved off with a razor, and I don't have my facial hair shaved, which is exactly what Stefan Molyneux looks like. I don't know what. I have no idea what they were thinking. So anyway.
We had a great time. We networked. We met with a lot of folks. Alex
Jones. Who? Oh, Alex Phillips.
Talk about the
yeah, Alex Phillips was there. He's getting ready for the American Priority Conference
in D.C. this year, to be in December.
Yep.
And we will be there as well if you live in or around D.C.
or within 8 hours driving. You can go and meet us all.
Because don't give me no flack that I live 4 hours away. I can't make D.C. We live 8.
Oh, I think it's 7.
For those of you in lower in Price Hill, 8 hours.
Okay.
So we can make it. We can do it. But anyways, you don't have to. But if you guys get to D.C., if you want to be in D.C. sometime in December, we'll be there. We'll meet up with you, hang out, exchange ideas. Folks, we networked. It was a great time.
Getting so much better at it.
To get each other excited about some of the things that are coming up. It's a reconnection, if you will. It's like for those of you who have fallen out of church and just, I haven't gone to church in so long. And then you get back to church during Christmas and it's like, oh man, I missed this. And it's just a reconnection.
And you wonder why it's so crowded at church.
Oh, it's packed. It's absolutely packed at church, and it's a reconnection, a reuniting. And that's what we do. And I was quite, excited and happy, when Stefan Molyneux spoke. He actually used a parable from the Bible to reference the Democrats in our government.
It reminded me of your church because you have a very good minister who really turns the Bible into real-world application, and that's what Stefan Molyneux did, and I thought it was awesome.
He referenced, for the most part, he said that the Democrats and the government promise you things.
Why don't you cut to the chase? He
He
said the government was Lucifer, okay?
And those
But he did it very eloquently.
Right, and those that advocate for giving you something they don't have. Just like Lucifer attempted to give Jesus, he took him up on the mountain and said, look, for those of you who don't know about the story, Jesus was tempted 3 times by the devil, and so the devil took Jesus to the top of the mountain and overlooked all the cities and all the gold and said, you can have all this, man.
Yeah, don't forget, when they were starving in the desert, he why don't you just turn this boulder here into bread?
Yeah, you could do it. You got the skills, man. So then, when they were looking over the all of creation, Lucifer said to Jesus, "You can have all of this. You can be your own God, your own King of Kings, King of Kings. You can have all the gold, all the harems, all the whatevers." And Jesus, for the most, and I'm paraphrasing Jesus, you can't give me something you ain't got, man.
Boy, he needs to work on that English.
What? He was speaking. That's Hebrew.
Oh, Hebrew.
That's translation.
Okay.
I translated for Lost in Translation. That was Hebrew to English. Jesus said, yo, brah, you can't give something you ain't got, dog.
Well, when you hear the stories about selling your soul to the devil, which is what Lucifer was tempting on right there, I never interpreted it that way, and I love the interpretation. His interpretation was this was not Lucifer's to even offer.
Right.
And I always interpret it as that Lucifer has the power to grant your wish. So when you sell your soul to the devil, like the prince, the prince, where you become powerful and wealthy, the most powerful person in the world, but when you die, you become Lucifer's property at that point for eternity. So I had always understood that he had the power to actually do that for you. And Stefan was like, he's offering you stuff he can't even give you.
And so what happens when you sell your soul to the devil, you literally give up your morality. You give everything up. You become an immoral individual. Like when he was talking about those that, and I'm not saying everybody in poverty is or anybody in welfare or whatnot, but the whole welfare state, the whole welfare mentality has been that the government or the politicians offer up you life. Oh, I got you here, dog. Here you go. But they're giving you something they don't have that's not theirs. It's actually ours, the ones who work for it. But what you accept, when you take that money, you have to accept that you are now enslaved to those politicians. You enslaved to the government.
It was a great analogy. It was great because
really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, you are enslaved, just like Lucifer will own you for eternity when you die if you agree to sell your soul to the devil.
Right.
So it's great.
General Flynn was there. Phenomenal General Flynn. And for those of you who already know and follow the show, General Flynn follows Smyth Radio, and I was able to wrangle him off to the side. Actually, he was by him. But he talked to a couple people, but then everybody went to breakout sessions, and Flynn was pretty much standing there by himself. So I walked up to him. I started talking with him, chit-chatting with him, and I broke the ice with Military Veteran Talk Radio, and he's like, what? And I said, yeah, man, you follow us.
Did you get his phone number? We need him on the show. Come on.
Get his number?
Oh, why not?
Of course. Oh, you got Junior's number, don't you? Well, come on,
all right,
man.
we'll call Junior, tell him.
Can I
get your dad's number?
Flynn, well, no, I would go through Flynn Jr. and say, hey, you got to vouch for us.
Well, we'll ask him to set it up for us.
Right. So anyway, I got a selfie. I've never been the one for the selfie. However,
That was a good one. It was clear and close.
but he put his hand on me. He did one of these. He put his arm on my. He put his hand on my
because
arm.
he didn't want you to bogart all the picture.
Oh, is that what that was?
Yeah, he was like, "Move over. I want my face in it too."
But I've come to terms with the selfie because I want people who see us or see the show. I want you and share the pictures, to let everybody know who we align our ideals with, who we respect.
Yeah.
Same reason why I did the thing with Pamela Geller. Pamela Geller is a huge fan of mine. I mean, I'm a huge fan of hers.
It might be reciprocal.
Maybe one day. Well, I talked to her about the show, and she was giddy. I said, I use your clips all the time. I use your articles, the things you write and do. And she was just elated, just loved it. And so it was just a very good time to be able to meet. And
she's a firecracker.
yes.
That's why she gets on Fox News, because she's like, I'll tell you what. And then, yeah.
And just like we were talking on the way home, because we had plenty of time to talk, and we talked about anything and everything, just like we always do.
We should have scoped it. It was exciting. Anyway.
I told you to scope it on the way there when we were an hour and a half out. That was an incredible conversation.
The thing that holds the camera, though, is kind of cheap, and I would have had to keep adjusting, and it was.
I almost thought about bringing.
I almost thought about asking you to bring yours. Anyway.
It's inside stuff, y'all. So we talked about how this meetup, if you will, was probably, and Scott Pressler was there, the Persistence. This meetup was probably one of the best connecting meetups we've ever been to.
I called it probably the greatest collection of MAGA leaders that I've ever seen. I went to the Deplorable. I went to Bull Moose. I went to the New Media Gala. You would think would have been it, and there were people there that I didn't know were heavy hitters because I didn't even know about them. And then I come to find out, oh wow, this guy's got a big following or whatnot. So the New Media Gala was pretty good. This one was the who's who of the MAGA leadership, and it was very few people were missing from the circle of influence that I feel is what you should be following. If you watch this show and you want to know who I'm listening to, who I'm looking at on Twitter, what kind of tweets I'm reading and retweeting and all that, and you wanted a whole list of that, that was there. I was really surprised that they all were there at St. Louis. It's a shame we couldn't get them all. We do at the Trump Hotel in D.C., we'll end up with this giant group of people. We'll end up with a huge picture of all of us. We really kind of blew it by not doing it at the St. Louis thing because, like I said, it was the who's who. You got your Stephen Molyneux, your James O'Keefe, Charlie Kirk, Mike Cernovich, Jack Posobiec, Laura Loomer, Cassandra Fairbanks, if I'm missing anybody, Scott Pressler. There's a couple of others in there, too. There were a couple of new ones that I didn't know about, and they do have a pretty big following, and they're involved in politics, and they are super MAGA. Oh, and, of course, General Flynn and his son, they throw them in the mix, too. But there were some people there that I got to meet for the first time that I didn't even know about that were great people to connect with, and I probably should do that more next time. I should probably look for somebody that looks like they probably have something going on, but I don't know who they are. Just go right up to them like, hey, with this huge group of people and I don't know who you are, maybe I need to know who you are, that kind of stuff. So it was great. Had I known that it was going to be that awesome, I would have been pushing it a lot harder for more people that watch us to come and meet all these people. It was just great. So
it was a good time. So I did do a
There you got Laura Loomer videotaping and talking with
yeah, I did a clip. I did like a 3 to 4 minute clip of a General Flynn speech, and he received a very, very special award. I'm going to get to that in a second, but before that, while we were there in St. Louis, a lot of the old fogies who've been coming to this event
for decades,
30, 40 years, whatnot, they didn't realize that Antifa and that socialist, communist, and those who wish death upon the unborn would show up.
And climate change freaks too.
Yeah, climate change freaks showed up and got in, but the cops ushered him out pretty quick. It was without incident.
Well, there was a lot of that signage out there in that group too.
Correct. And so this is Scott Priestley. Why do I want to call him Pressler? Why do I want to call him? Jeez. And Laura Loomer, and then it'll fade to Carrie and myself real quick. We'll just play a little bit of this Antifa that went down. Come on.
Oh, no volume.
Oh. Huh. That's weird.
Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
We're winning the culture war. And when we elect President Trump in 2020, it's going to be a beautiful, beautiful moment for our country.
Yeah, the people were obsessed with the fact that Scott was gay, and they were making fun of him.
No. There was one guy there. The most vocal Antifa guy there was gay, and he was trying to shock everybody there by saying that he was gay because he thought for sure that we were all homophobic. And Scott said, "I'm gay too," and just totally shut him down. It was pretty sad on his part.
Who's that?
Oh, the guy who had a concentration camp? Yeah, we will love him. Oh, wow. Gotta love it.
So we're hanging out there.
There's J.C. Maxwell. Got Jim Hoft was there and his brother.
Yeah, and so Joe Hoff was there. Jim Hoff actually came out but didn't come up over to them.
Joe is ruthless. Full suit, tie, and everything, and he just gets right into the scrum.
Right, and so they're waving a Russian, USSR, not Russian.
I think it's a USSR.
USSR flag with a hammer and sickle on it, and we called them, they were calling us communist, Nazis, racist. Even Maxwell, who's a black gay man, they were calling him a Nazi. All these white Antifa calling him a Nazi and angry and communist, and we're like, but you have a red flag with a hammer and sickle on it.
It was the Soviet flag. Somebody was like, no, it's just a general communist flag.
No, that's the Soviet flag.
It was literally the Soviet Union flag.
Let me see if I can get it.
Bunch of idiots.
If I got a better picture of it.
It's the one that the weird guy was holding. That guy there with the uniform.
Yeah, right there on the right with the white.
Right. Yeah. The guy with the white shirt was holding not just a generally communist flag, hammer and sickle. It was the official national flag of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, which we know now as Russia.
Right. And so, I engaged this young lady. I engaged her in a great conversation. I asked her, where are you guys from around here?
It's not really a Christian thing, is it?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I mean, it's like...
Somebody said there were Christians there, and I went looking for the Christians. This young lady and her friend were pretty clean-cut, young millennials, and...
Somebody brought 2 young children with them, too. Well, I don't want to say young. I mean, they were probably about 9.
9. But this woman's in her 20s, I would imagine.
It's like down the way, but just a little...
So are you guys here protesting? Are you with them or are you with them?
I don't feel comfortable.
So she says, I don't feel comfortable talking right now.
They're such cowards.
Like, people are representing and, like, why they're asking questions.
Well, dude with the communist flag is kind of representing communism, which is slavery. It's 100% slavery. Communism and Islam, keep women down, keep people down. I mean, that's communism.
So she didn't have much to say. She was very uncomfortable.
They're so uneducated. And I don't mean that as a put down. They just, why are you there? What do you think you know that you feel it's important to go out there and protest capitalism?
Right.
They can't even answer simple questions that Brian's throwing out there.
Right, and here's a good picture of the flag right there, the communist flag.
And you got cowards with the mask on, and that was the big question for me. Why do you have a mask on? Because I don't want to get doxxed. Okay, so what does that mean? Are you ashamed of your message? There's me and Laura Loomer, and there's JC. Oh, that's a guy that was. I don't even think he was with Antifa at all.
Yeah, it was maybe an early 30s black individual that was just there and wanted to argue a little bit.
I think he wanted to see some drama, and because the whole thing was so low energy that he decided that he needed to do something. So he tried to engage a little bit in dialogue and realized that, he was outgunned intellectually, flat out. I mean, the only things that he knew was misinformation. So Scott Presler tried to engage with him, and I'll tell you how ignorant this guy was. Scott Presler, God bless him, he really did everything he could to engage with this guy, and he was very respectful, listened to what the guy said, responded very, very respectfully. And then at some point he realized who I was recording the whole conversation going down, he realized that we actually were together.
Yes.
And he was like, oh, you guys are together. I should have known. I could tell by your noses. Bunch of Jews.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and I don't know what
I don't know what it
was,
was,
but it doesn't really matter to me. But for him to say that we must be together and because we're Jews, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
They were hating on Jews, hating on gay. They were hating on everybody who wasn't
They're
white like them.
They're anti-Semitic, racist, bigots. They're totally bigoted. So anyway.
So here I try to engage with the millennial.
We're here at this conference to talk about life and cherishing the unborn, cherishing babies, and bringing them into this world and not murder them. It's a big thing about it.
So you're protesting abortion?
No, it's not protest. It's a talk about who supports life, what candidates support life. Donald Trump supporting life, one of the biggest pro-life presidents we've ever had.
I like how you never forget to.
Judge Kavanaugh. Judge Kavanaugh for Supreme Court Justice. Huge supporter of pro-life. However, I think some people on the internet have a misconception of Judge Kavanaugh when they're screaming that if he's not confirmed to the judgeship, that there'll be blood in the streets and things. But one single judge can't overturn. You need all 9. You know what I'm saying? But at least we have someone who's a constitutionalist that will interpret the Constitution as our founding fathers wanted.
I realized quickly I was talking way over her head. And
you might have been teaching her something.
I hope so. I hope I did. And so we went on for a little bit. I kept getting distracted by other people. It's the first time I've been in a crowd.
I was waiting for her to say, you're talking to a brick wall here.
Yeah, so then she just smiled and politely she walked away. So there was Laura Loomer, and then I'm trying to get you, Carrie, when we
I was videotaping Scott Presler, yeah.
Carrie engaged.
And there's Joe Hoft.
Yep, there's Joe Hoft. You were engaging.
We outnumbered
communists.
Yeah, there's the guy that was the most outspoken. He was angry, and he was trying to use the fact that he was gay as he was weaponizing homosexuality against us. And we're like, that's a straw man because we're not we're not homophobic. And in fact, Scott Presler's with us, and we have no problem with him. And
he's wearing a T-shirt that says IMT, and he's like, "Oh, I'm with IMT." I'm like, "IMT? What is that?" Something Marxist something. I'm like, Marxist, and you're gay. In a Marxist society, you would not be allowed to live if you were gay.
It's funny. I didn't hear the threat that he made, but it was not violent. There was nothing violent there. And when people said, you guys are violent, they were lumping all people who protest into all Antifa worldwide, which the organization is very violent. But he, I thought, correctly responded by saying, what did we do that was violent? I have not done anything violent at all. And yet, at some point, did you overhear it? Because I was on the other side of the crowd. All of a sudden, I heard everybody go, "Oh!" A whole bunch of people. And I said, what happened? And it turns out the very guy that was trying to make a valid argument that he is not violent just because he's marching with these Antifa people, which, by the way, he said, Antifa's not a thing. It's not even real, blah, 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 and which I think was a false argument.
It's not a group.
It's not a thing.
No, it's not incorporated.
Yeah, that was his argument. But anyway, I thought that was a stupid argument. But I thought he made a good argument by saying, why are you saying that I got violent? I didn't get violent, which he didn't. And yet he ended up saying something that when people came over and I asked him why everybody was speaking, saying, whoa, it was because they said that he made a threat.
He said that somebody should take out or kill Donald Trump.
That's why
I was over that.
everybody-
It was probably me you heard
And
screaming.
yet they're not. Show me where I get violent. Which, by the way, threat is not actual violence, but I don't think threatening is legal to anybody, and certainly illegal against the president.
Right. So I think this is the part where you come into play.
No, they're worried about being doxxed.
Why do you? Why? I mean, I don't have a mask on. Why do you believe indigenous genocide?
Well, maybe.
Why do you believe that I believe that? Because you made a video about it.
They were not
About indigenous genocide.
Oh, he thought that I was Stefan
Stefan
Molyneux.
Molyneux, are you?
Yeah, isn't that him?
No, this isn't Stefan.
Oh my God!
Stefan Molyneux.
Breaking news.
I got an American accent suddenly.
Stefan Molyneux.
American accent suddenly.
Stefan
I
Molyneux.
grew facial hair.
That's me.
We'll be on Smyth Radio tomorrow night.
A face that you can't forget.
That's
Well,
pretty funny.
plus I would have to shave my head all bald.
Okay.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, he started accusing me of something. I said, "Why are you accusing me of something I didn't do?" So anyway,
What was the USSR founded on? Marxism.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's just demonstrated a failure. I mean, I think that capitalism has shown a lot more success. Free market.
is this that one guy we ended up?
Gives us
We
freedom.
debated this guy so
And
bad.
that's what we're trying to do, right?
And then you get a job, you make some money, work your way up the ladder, or become successful, buy a house, get a car.
This guy's a
impress
Marxist,
woman,
and
maybe
then-
have some babies, go to church.
That
raise
was the
your kids
most
right.
passive aggressive making fun of somebody I've ever heard in my life. Oh, you did a great job on that. I was trying to keep a straight face because we all knew, even he knew. Look at him smiling. He knows he's being insulted here. But you did it very, very, very eloquently.
Okay. I think we're good. I think y'all
Yeah.
saw enough.
I wish it was more. I guess I shouldn't wish it was more dramatic and more exciting. But
Yeah, no.
they had no energy, and also they didn't have numbers. That's when it gets scary, because when you get in a big mob, mentality takes over, and people start to think that either they can or should do certain things that they would never. Even it would never occur to them if they were by themselves and making their own decisions. And so that's why it gets really dangerous. Like the Deplorable had like at least 1,000, maybe as many as 2,000 people protesting outside the front of it. And that's when it can get scary. If somebody throws something, everybody around them might say, yeah! And start everybody.
It's on now.
Right.
All I needed was somebody to show me the way.
Right.
You had me at Mazel Tov.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Sorry, my wife watched Jerry Maguire for the first time last week.
Oh, boy. All right.
Sorry, folks. There were jokes for the masses.
Cocktail.
So check this out. I'm going to play. This is General Flynn. This is 3 different clips of him that I cut it down real quick. He spoke for a while, but these are 3 really important. He talks about 3 individual people. The 4th one is named after the award that he received, named after the General Jack. He'll talk about that for real quick, just a second. But then this is where we're going as a movement, if you will. General Flynn talks about where we are, where we've been, what has happened in the past, where we are now, and where we need to focus on going in the future. And while I play this, I'm going to do some technical fixing in the background.
Good idea.
Okay, so hang on.
For many of us across our nation, we understand that this is not the first time that patriots have risen to this fight that we're in today. More than 200 years ago, more than 250 years ago, Patrick Henry, a great patriot who understood service to America, he warned his fellow countrymen that his choice against Great Britain's suppression of freedoms was crystal clear, as mine is tonight, as he described whether to accept slavery to a monarch or freedom. Seems like an easy choice. Almighty God, he said, I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Another great servant, Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln fought for his vision to unite the North and the South as a new birth of freedom, so that all people would be treated equally without regard for color or race. In his very famous Gettysburg Address of 1863, at the dedication of the Soldiers' National Cemetery to honor Union soldiers who had died in the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln, President Lincoln, he inspired our nation. He inspired Americans to fight on, so that these dead shall not have died in vain, and that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by you, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. In fact, just slightly over 100 years later, in his 1964 speech at the Republican National Convention, another great American servant, and subsequently President of the United States, Ronald Reagan, he redefined the very essence of why the fight by Americans against tyranny and injustice will never end, must never end. Reagan said, quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. This time, our America, the urgency to act is at the doorstep of our democracy. The future of this country depends on each one of you in this room tonight and many, many others that you represent around our great country. This turning point is about the heart and soul of the United States of America. You cannot and must not be silent or take for granted that our great nation will not fall to the many threats that we face around the world, and some right here at home. It is time. It is absolutely time. It's time tonight. It's time this weekend. It's never a better time. But it's time to buckle down and listen up and stand ready to fight for our way of life and our traditions. For those who oppose our fundamental principles could take us down in the snap of a finger. Deep down inside, it's about the way we want to live and the way we must continue to fight to live for. Super important. Our fight for individual freedom and liberty, as I described a little while ago, will also not be pretty nor perfect. We will be measured harshly. Trust me, we will be measured harshly, and our enemies will try to destroy us, but we cannot fail. There are moments in history that are seminal, and then there are other moments that are monumental. Major General Jack Singlaw was present at all of these. And he was present at all these during most of the last century. I mean, like I said, the guy, he was 97 years old. The guy, I would not want to meet him in a bar fight tonight. He's a pretty incredible human being. And thank God our country has people like him. He always responded to the call to serve, the call to duty. And in his way, with his gifts, his intellect, his courage, and his belief system, he served our country and continues to serve our country. I'm standing here as a reflection of Jack Singlaw because of his service. Jack served our country with distinction, with honor, integrity, and with dedication to liberty and freedom. But above all, he dedicated his life to God, he dedicated his life to his family, and he dedicated his life to our country, the United States of America. So on behalf of Major General Jack Singlaw and for all of his tremendous years of service and his service to America, I humbly accept this award. I commit to General Singlaw and to you tonight that I will never stop fighting and that I will never stop believing. Our nation and its very existence are always at risk to tyranny, especially tyranny around the world. My pledge of allegiance and my solemn vow is to our beautiful country, its flag, and that pledge will never waver. My pledge will never waver. I know all of you feel the same, but every so often, it's good to be reminded. So to all of you, thank you so much. Thank you for this honor, and I hope you enjoy this great weekend, and God bless America. Thank you.
He got a lot of standing ovations.
Yeah, he got he got a lot of standing ovations when we were there. It was a really good time.
I think I counted 3 standing ovations.
Can you imagine serving underneath somebody like that? Oh my goodness. What an amazing man, amazing life he's had. General Flynn, we know he got entrapped and snared in the coup d'etat that he did not know was at the time underway. Mm-hmm. So he had no reason to fear or worry about the FBI.
Well, it was the deep state working with they were working very unpatriotically, almost treasonous, definitely seditiously.
Sedition.
Yeah, seditiously for the previous administration. And it was when I say treason, it's tough. It's more like the kind of feeling you get when we're about to go into a civil war. So it's not so much like the Rosenbergs that Ethel and Julius and Ethel, who gave the nuclear secrets to the Soviet Union, and they ended up getting convicted and put to death for treason. It's not like that because there isn't an enemy that's involved, but it's more of a Civil War situation where you have one group of people that claim that they're Americans who are flat out at war, totally 100% at war with the other side. And as we know from the old saying, all is fair in love and war in their minds. And since they are at war, all is fair. There is no rules as long as they're at war.
You go all the way back to somebody did something in high school.
Well, I'm just saying that they're going to do everything. They're going to do anything. We're talking about General Flynn. With General Flynn, it's like they're going to do whatever to get him removed. And it was so easy because General Flynn didn't know that these people were bad actors.
And he's honest. He's like that Boy Scout. He's honest. He's up front. There's no reason for him to lie, cheat, steal. That is not in his makeup.
Right.
Not even close to being in his makeup.
And he's the one that the FBI interviewers of him say, oh, we don't think he lied.
Yeah, he didn't lie.
Yeah, but they're charging him for that because
somebody else said something different that you said, and we believe them and not you.
Right.
And now what?
Meanwhile, the lower level FBI agents that interviewed him concluded that he didn't lie.
Right, and so the FBI indicted his entire family, and then what do? You go, oh man, come on,
whatever.
Yeah, so that's why you got to come to the table and sit down. So we'll see how that plays out. But
I don't want to live in America like that. I do not want to live in a country where the government is a fierce adversary of us as people, and they want to throw you in jail for having a belief that's different than them. In this case, a political ideology. I don't want to live in a country like that. And that's why I'm okay with accepting their declaration of war and fighting back however I need to do it. And since we're in a cold war right now, there's no actual shots fired physical. There's no physical violence yet. But we're going to do everything that you do in a cold war, short of violence, to fight them. And we're defending ourselves. And we're not being offensive at all. This is purely self-defense in a cold civil war right now. And it's a shame that General Flynn was blindsided because he was unaware. He thought that when he was talking with people that were essentially going to be in the same branch of government as him and under his same boss. They're under the same boss, that they would all be on the same page and they were all going to be doing what they need to do to make America great again. What he didn't know was that these people who are working for the government at the pleasure of the president had one goal in mind, and that is to destroy Donald Trump and every single person that's helping him.
At all cost. At all cost.
Yeah, and laws be damned. Nothing will stop them. They'll use the laws to their advantage, but they're not going to let the same laws prohibit them from or even curb any of their
There's no slowing down. No,
not at all. So they're gonna go all in. All is fair in love and war, and that's what General Flynn had to deal with. And now that we're kind of aware of that, now it's like, now what do we do? Which is why there's such a delay in justice being served. In fact, I think that this is unacceptable. I think that justice for all the wrongdoing, the law breaking, in order to commit sedition and to execute a coup d'etat of our constitutionally elected president, something that we went to the polls to do as a part of our self-government, is being usurped by people who are not elected at all. They were put in those positions by other people in power, mostly Obama. Some of them were other Republican establishment people who are all on board. We talk about the Uniparty.
Oh, yeah.
The Uniparty is the establishment swamp. Some of them are deep state. Some of them are elected, and they campaign in bad faith. They tell you, we're going to represent you well, when in reality they represent the deep state and themselves, in that order.
Right. Paul Ryan helped to get the Grabman and Posse fake the tape out. Paul Ryan helped with that, and John McCain was a holder of the Russian PP dossier that he handed over to Comey. You know, there's more deep staters in the Republican Party. You know who they are. Some of them have come around. Marco Rubio is, dude, you're going to have a problem, bro. You really need to make it.
He blew it. He may have just been a plant, because I cannot understand how somebody who was touted as a Tea Party favorite, which, by the way, the Trump movement is basically the Tea Party resurrected.
The rise, yes.
Yeah, it's resurrected. And so at the time when he first got elected, he was considered the Tea Party favorite. All of us Tea Party people were like, yeah, all right, this is awesome. We're getting these young whippersnappers that are conservative, that are more Tea Party, not establishment. They're not cucks. And instantly, as soon as he was in office, instantly he was just their little bitch boy, like literally, because anything that he was asked to do for them, for the deep state, for the establishment, for the swamp, he was like, yes, I will do that. I promise you. And I will work hard to make sure I do it well, because I don't want you guys to open up that manila envelope and release the contents to the press.
Yep, shows the dirt on me.
I mean, however it is that it came to be, he is highly compromised.
Right. So we've gotten more breaking news coming out this week about the Russia story, Russian hoax. First and foremost, guys, you've got to understand that patience is a must with this. It is coming out. The hurricanes have stopped. There are rumors. I mean, solid, maybe not rumors, but solid individuals like Joe DeGeneva, Sarah Carter. They have said, and some other folks have said, that if it were not because of the hurricanes are preventing Trump politically from declassifying the entire FISA warrant, which he will do. He will do before the November election. The entire FISA warrant will be unredacted and released.
Now that you say that, I'm just now realizing for the first time that the timing of some of the things that are coming from the Democrats might be intentional to coincide and to get these certain things out there, while Trump is going to be preoccupied with saving lives, saving American lives. And so they're probably thinking, well, now that we got this hurricane coming and Trump is going to be working very hard to prevent us from saddling him with the blame for the hurricane,
right,
and the damage of it, we can do these other things because he's distracted. So anything that they do this week and the past couple of days and the next few weeks ahead
right,
could be timed that way intentionally.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. And so for this week, the big news that came out about it with the new text revealed from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page, this is getting out of control. And when I say it's out of control in the sense that Jeff Sessions is not involved. It is out of control in the sense that the DOJ ran by Rod Rosenstein, who is supposedly under indictment, can't actually do anything. There is nobody at the helm. What the heck is going on? Weissman, I mean, all these people that are running the Department of Justice that should be involved in this, that should shut this down. And for those of you on video watching the show, the text that Lisa Page and Peter Strzok back to each other, Lisa Page, it will make your head spin to realize how many stories we have played a personal role in. Sheesh, this has been quite a year. So the text messages, and apparently there's another 50,000 text messages that are being combed through.
Oh, boy.
This by Sarah Carter. That you may have seen her on. She's been on. Seems like she's on Hannity every night.
This should be crowdsourced.
Yes.
Well, think about it. Let's say you have 500,000 texts that need to be looked at. Well, think about it. If I gave you my entire text, my phone, I just gave you my phone, and you had to find something of interest in the text. You know that a vast majority of what you read is going to be banal. It's just not going to be exciting. It's not going to be incriminating. It's just going to be boring stuff. Well, if we had everybody read all the texts in the entire country, just read a chunk of it, it's not going to take very long before all the juicy stuff comes out. Because as soon as you find a juicy text, you're going to be like, whoa, guys. And then you'll tweet it, and then it gets retweeted. And within hours, probably, if at the most days, you're going to have all the juice that you need, but it has to be put out there in the public and crowdsourced. But
right, absolutely. And someone else that I have a lot of faith and trust in, and I went over this I had a scope earlier last week. Somebody was trying to blast on me about, do you just read articles and you do any research? I said, no, I do research and I cross-reference things, but there are a lot of people I have a lot of trust and faith in. One being Catherine Herridge. She's on Fox News as a contributor and DC contributor. She's out of DC and digging in deep and really trying to get the real story and find out what's really going on. And so there's certain people that you can go to that you know are not going to lie to you. Like I keep referencing Sarah Carter. You know she's going to give you the real deal.
Right. So you're talking about reputable sources here.
Joe DeGenova. I mean, these are reputable, honest, upfront people that want nothing more than the truth. And if the truth comes out and the truth is damning to people he likes, he's going to tell you, oops, we got one here. Yeah. But that ain't the case, folks. And so this is a real quick clip, just 2-minute clip on Catherine Herridge and the text messages on Brett Baer. Let's get some sound on that, huh, Mr. Producer? But no, it's not you.
Oh.
It'd be me.
It's your fault.
It'd be me.
Also today, we have the politics of the FBI, a presidential tweet about this investigation over text messages between FBI agent Peter Strzok and lawyer Lisa Page.
Well, that's right. A new letter from House Republican Mark Meadows to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein says 3 April 2017 texts sent by FBI agent Peter Strzok may be evidence of a leak campaign against the president. On April 10, 2017, Strzok tells FBI lawyer Lisa Page, I had literally just gone to find this phone to tell you I want to talk to you about the media leak strategy with the Justice Department before you go. 2 days later, Strzok writes, the 2 articles are coming out about Page's, quote, namesake, an apparent reference to Trump campaign aide Carter Page. And on April 22nd, Strzok writes, the article is out, adding, well done. After the president tweeted about the congressman's allegations, Strzok's lawyer sent Fox this statement. The term media leak strategy in Mr. Strzok's text refers to a department-wide initiative to detect and stop leaks to the media. The president and his enablers are once again peddling unfounded conspiracy theories to mislead the American people. The Justice Department and FBI have not commented. Tonight, Meadows' office called the lawyer's statement a, quote, work of fiction based on the documents and evidence available to Congress. Brett.
Two quick things. One is, do we know that the Inspector General is still moving forward with an investigation into the early parts of the Trump probe?
The Inspector General is looking specifically at FISA.
Yeah.
He's also specifically looking at evidence of leaks by the FBI and Justice Department.
And we believe that declassifying documents in regard to that investigation could come pretty soon.
In a matter of days. Republicans on the House side have been pretty optimistic that it will move forward maybe as early as next week. But as you know from your own reporting, it's kind of been a moving target. The key thing I think it will put to rest is questions about whether one or more confidential sources were run up against the campaign at that time and whether the dossier was the sort of rock solid foundation for the FISA warrant or whether they really had additional intelligence.
All right, Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to sum that up real quick, what had happened, what had transpired through these text messages is that Peter Strzok, it looks like Peter Strzok was saying to Lisa Page, the articles are coming out, well done. It looks as though, and then Lisa Page saying, you would be shocked at how much we played a part in these articles.
Yeah, that's not just the articles. They didn't write the articles, but the information, the story, the story that's in the article, they're responsible for.
And so the lawyer for Peter Strzok spun. Well, it looks like he's spinning it. He spun it to say that, oh, no, this is normal for department heads to head off leaks at the pass. He's trying to stop a leak, not actually leak. In all reality, we know James Comey leaked. We know McCabe leaked. We know Peter Strzok and Lisa Page are now leakers. The thing was leaking like a sieve. There were leaks everywhere. And why would they want to leak this information to the media? Because one, they believed that the FISA warrant would never see the light of day. And two, they had to get the narrative out to the media. It's like trying to get a viral video go viral. How do you get a viral video go viral if the video is garbage?
Well, you tell them that it did something, like cause Benghazi.
Right. Oh, you were thinking my same thoughts.
Yep.
So you tell me cause Benghazi, and you trump out the guy, the producer in a white garb, and you head him off to the gulags, never to be seen again.
I think he was a plant, but anyway, go ahead.
It's possible. And how do you get because they had to get the Russian collusion narrative out, although Russian collusion was never a crime of any sorts, and never has there ever been any Russian collusion on the part of Donald Trump. They had to get the narrative out to sell it. Folks, they're trying to sell it to the people to overthrow the election. It's a fact. And now we see it. We see all the evidence, all the details, everything laid out for us. Like I said, this week has been a really bad week for the Strzok's and the Pages of the world. And then FBI official firing Strzok justified. Comey and McCabe disgraced FBI. So apparently, ex-FBI official is confirming that firing Strzok was justified because now look at all the leaks. Strzok worked with Comey, worked with McCabe. I mean, that's what it was all about, folks. And now we're starting to see all kinds of stuff come out. There's now a report being released that said 13 different deep state FBI agents fed information to one liberal reporter. Folks, they were all out. They were all out in a collaboration to make sure the media propped this up and set this up and helped them to help the Clintons to overthrow an election. If you don't think this is bad, if you don't think this is the worst thing that has ever happened, you got to be living under a rock or something.
Yeah,
because the details are just unbelievable.
If you look at some of the things or listen to some of the things that used to get us so animated in the early stages of Smyth Radio, because we started during the Obama administration. Remember how unbelievably angry I would get during the show when we would talk about the IRS scandal.
Right. Oh, man.
I said, how many times on this show did I say that if there's the biggest scandal that has ever happened under the Obama administration was the IRS scandal, and it was the one thing, if you could put one thing out there to say, should we have impeached Obama? Is there one thing? And it would have absolutely been the IRS scandal. I can tell you right now that what's happening with Strzok and Mueller and Page and just all this stuff that's going on right now with basically not so much Russian collusion. There's a little bit of collusion. They got help from Russia to help them to overthrow an election, basically, right, and to thwart the will of the people by usurping our democratic process. That is the story of our ages. I've never learned of anything in American history that rivals this as far as I know. I mean, nothing. All the way back to the 1776. I mean, this is right up there with Civil War and War of 1812. It's just shots haven't been fired yet, but this is – you've heard people say this is a constitutional crisis, and in some cases when you've heard it in the past, they weren't – it might have been hyperbole, but it was true.
I've never seen it this bad.
This is so bad. This is so bad that if somebody doesn't go and serve hard prison time – I'm not talking, you're convicted and you're found guilty and we'll get to sentencing, whatever it might be, whatever. But we found you guilty. Naughty. No, hard. I'm talking life is over.
Leavenworth.
Hard prison time where I'm talking the kind of prison time where 10, 15, 20 years from now, we're talking about somebody like a Mueller who is still behind serving out there in Indiana. In whatever high security, whatever it might be, all of them. Comey obviously needs to go to prison.
Wait, and don't think when you say Mueller, folks, I want you to understand, Mueller was part of this entire thing to trigger the special.
He's the ringleader.
Yeah, to trigger this whole thing to make it happen. And dragging of the feet is on purpose because they know that the 2018 elections, naturally, the other party will gain a little bit of tread, a little bit of traction.
I'll actually be kind of surprised and disappointed in the fact that people are not recognizing how much awesomer America has gotten. Is that awesomer? Is that a word?
You're good. You're an American. You say whatever you want.
Yeah, I got the First Amendment right to have bad grammar, okay?
We'll philosophize about that all day long, my man.
So America's gotten much better since the election of Donald Trump, and it's getting silly to not attribute it to him. And we know.
We don't get to some
and by
details.
the way, people are like, local elections are different. We got Cuck Boy over here that's running, and we got this guy over here that's sexually assaulted 14-year-olds, and we can't be voting for these people. I'm just going to stay home. Guys, these congressmen are going to be the thing that helps Trump expedite the making of America better, greater, whatever.
Keeping America great. Yeah, keeping America great. That's their job.
And we still have long to go. So when you say keeping America great, I'm not really ready to go there yet. Okay. But definitely a lot needs to be done. And Trump is not a dictator. And he can't just say, all right, well, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going to start executive ordering everything. No, he really needs to have Congress say, all right, here's your bill. This is exactly what you asked for. Will you sign it right here? Trump signs it, and boom, it's law. And we get rid of things like Obamacare. We need people to go out and vote down the line, no matter how much you hate him. I mean, Portman's not running this year.
I was going to say, that is the first one I was.
But if he was running, I would have been like, damn it, I'm going to pull the lever for him right now.
You got to pull it for Rob Portman.
Yeah. So this year it's Renacci for us in Ohio. So.
And Sherrod Brown, folks, for those of you in Ohio, Sherrod Brown is facing some serious, violent. I was under the impression there's audio and video of the violent allegations.
Well, good for whoever it was that came up with these things, because
ex-girlfriend, ex-wife.
Well, good for them making this happen, because Sherrod Brown's been around forever, and for them, it's surprising. It's surprising to me that after all these years something pops up. Is it
Well, it's a recent
hypocritical?
thing. It's not an old thing. It is a recent thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is it hypocritical to be cheering on allegations against Sherrod Brown while poo-pooing accusations against Kavanaugh?
Because these accusations against Kavanaugh are from high school tomfoolery.
From a Democrat activist who's a professor at a California university, no less. Come on.
And I'm talking about somebody who was close to Sherrod, that this had happened on multiple occasions, and it's under my impression, it's recent. We'll find out more details as they come out.
I'm sorry for whoever tweeted this. It's a prominent MAGA person, and I can't remember who it was off the top of my head, but I did read it right before the show. They said you can't have allegations like what Kavanaugh had 38 years ago, and it be a problem if he's never done it again. And what I mean by that is and what they meant by it is they don't think it's real. They don't think that he could have possibly done what's being alleged and never having done it again. It would have had this kind of offense would have to be done by somebody with such questionable morals that it's just a matter of time before there's other victims or whatever. And here we are 38 years later and just this one allegation, which, by the way, did you hear about all of the other women or girls that were in his school at the time he was there?
They all came out. Bunch of them came out and said, this is the number. This guy was nothing but awesome. This was a great guy. And the women that have worked for him put together a half dozen, put together a video clip of them talking about working for him and how, how
was he
inspiring and honorable and just a great person to work for as a leader.
I'm telling you, if you are comfortable with coming to conclusions personally, without proof, but with a lot of circumstantial evidence and a lot of experience that guides this conclusion based on all this properly interpreted circumstantial evidence, I'm pretty comfortable saying that I think this is made up. I think it's made up. AJ Delgado said that she thinks that she's telling the truth, but that you should take into consideration he was only 17 at the time. Guys, I've told you this a million times, and AJ, I'm sorry. I'm going to have to reach out to you and slap you on the wrist a little bit. Do not ever accept the premise of anything coming out of the left. You have to have the default assumption that what they're saying is completely made up, a complete lie. You can't say, well, I mean, it could be true. It could be true.
So long ago, though, Kerry, so long ago.
Yeah, but so here's what she's saying. She's saying, well, maybe it happened to me. I don't know what AJ's background is in her high school years, but this is textbook. This happened to somebody, so they believe that this probably happens to everybody. It's a confirmation bias,
right?
And not knowing anything about her background in high school, but this sound for her to jump to the conclusion that the premise is true, kind of makes me feel like there might be some confirmation bias maybe on her part. But you can't ever assume that the premise is either accurate or plausible or anything if it's coming out of a leftist, because that's what they're counting on. That's how they win these arguments, because they're counting on you to accept their premise. So AJ, slap on the wrist.
Okay.
No violence though. No violence.
Right. No violence. So it was. I'm looking real quick on the interwebs. It was Sherrod Brown's ex-wife. And Democrats surround Sherrod Brown and defend him for beating up his ex-wife. It's okay. No, that isn't what they said. But, they're supporting him still and making it. And now Sherrod Brown's wife has come out and says she supports her husband for re-election. So whatever the case may be, spousal abuse, if it is that severe and that serious, spousal abuse, especially when it's the man towards the woman, he could have her in a sense to where she's beat down and, he confronts her and he's like, you got to support me. Otherwise, there's more roughness. Whatever it be, she might be the enabler to him. I don't know. I'm speculating. I know. But the fact still remains that it was abuse towards his ex-wife. Now, that's real. This thing with Kavanaugh, not real.
So I'm tweeting out right now, replying to AJ Delgado. Why would you agree to their premise? Always assume leftists are lying when making accusations and allegations against conservatives until proven positive. So I think that's something that I've actually repeated over and over, and I'm repeating it right now on this show because it's that important. I see so many people make that mistake. I've seen Sarah Huckabee Sanders make that mistake. She was being asked a very snarky question that had a very sneaky false premise in there, and she didn't attack the premise. Instead, she defended the allegation when the premise was false. Don't even defend allegations. No. Don't even go there. You got to attack the premise. Say, hey, listen, with all due respect, you are a liberal, and so I'm going to not accept your allegations or your accusations until I get a reputable source that proves it, or I should say within reasonable doubt.
Right.
And that just absolutely has not happened, and neither has releasing her name added to it.
Speaking about that, what about all the women who came out and accused Donald Trump of some kind of sexual inappropriateness or something?
Yeah, there was supposed to be a long train of them.
Like a dozen, like 20 or something.
Right, and what happens is like the Stormy Daniels thing. You got Tucker saying, I think he did have sex with Stormy Daniels. Yeah, he said that on the.
Who cares?
Well, the thing is we don't know that. So why are we conceding that to them? If Trump comes out and says, "Well, yeah, I did have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky," I mean, Stormy Daniels.
Whoa, Stormy Daniels.
If he came out and said that, I'd say, okay, he admitted. But I don't even remember if he categorically denied it. But he certainly has not admitted it yet.
Right.
And the only person that said that it did happen was Stormy Daniels. Why are we buying into these premises?
And she was under a non-disclosure agreement, paid $130,000, and the person that was supposed to sign it never signed it. The only person that signed it was Cohen and her. Come on, y'all. Got to let this one go. But anyways, real quick, just to wrap up the latest on the Russia. Bruce Orr, who worked for the Justice Department at the highest possible position in the Justice Department as a civilian. His wife, Nellie Orr, worked for Fusion GPS and was paid by Hillary Clinton to get the Russian dossier from Christopher Steele. With that being said, Mark Meadows, quote, "We have the reporters' names whose Strzok and Page leaked to. Also, the judge there's the judge that is not releasing the documents on Bruce Orr and all these other things that need to come out is linked directly to Bruce Orr. So we've got another conflict of interest to where and this is by Judicial Watch, is suing the Justice Department this year for documents and records related to Bruce and Nellie Orr and Fusion GPS. And this past Thursday, Tom Fitton attended a hearing along with a counsel to obtain Bruce Orr documents after months and months of stonewalling by the Justice Department. The judge assigned to the case admitted he previously worked with Bruce Orr at the DOJ and delayed the release of the emails in December 1st after the midterm, till December 1st after the midterms. So how about that? We got more judges interfering, more judges getting involved. It's all a shame. It's all going to come out.
We absolutely need to stand our ground.
Yes, don't ever back down, ever.
Yep, got to stand your ground. You can't do stuff like, oh, I got to recuse myself. You get stop.
Oh, man.
Stop it.
Hey, so what do you think about that thing about Bob Woodward? You know that book he wrote?
Yeah.
Did you hear that he's been an FBI asset since the 1970s?
Oh, deep state man. Should start calling him Shallow Throat. Or something.
I told my millennial about Deep Throat.
Yeah.
And he said, "What? I'm calling HR." I said, no. I had explained to him what Deep Throat was all about back during the Nixon era.
Yeah, they made a movie. It was called Deep Throat.
Yes.
It was a movie. You had to get it wrapped in paper.
What?
Yeah.
No.
That movie, right?
No, I'm talking about the people that were talking covered. Anyway.
There was an informant. There was a leak. It was a source. It was a source called Deep Throat.
That was the name of the source, Deep Throat.
Right. And we found out just recently who it was. So
good times, folks.
Yeah.
Good times.
But you're saying that Bob Woodward is the new
Deep Throat
asset.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, Shallow Throat then. If we had Deep Throat for the other one, then Bob
Something.
Woodward would be Shallow. So anyway, I promised you guys to expose more of Barack Hussein Obama's insanity. Hold on. Before I get that. Before I get to Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
I got it before I forget. I almost forget this. I passed right over it. This past week was the 17th year of 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
I scoped about it, and I was kind of fired up about it. In the sense that I'm fired up about it, that we need to. I understand that it was our Pearl Harbor, if you will. It was an attack on America, but we've got to move on.
It's time to move on.
I'm sorry, I can't keep doing this every year.
I was 25 years old. I was still in inactive reserves during. You sign up for the military, do 4 years of active duty, but your full contract from very beginning to total civilian is 8 years, and so the other 4 years that you're not on active duty, you're on inactive reserves, and that's what I was on at the time of 9/11 as a 25-year-old young man. And it was very emotional, very upsetting. It was angering. I remember my total flip of my emotions when I saw the building come down. In fact, I wasn't even sure what had happened when the first one came down. When the second one came down, I was like that hornet when you throw a shoe at the hornet's nest.
Right.
I literally was like, I don't care who's in my way, but a stinger is going into somebody.
Right.
That's what I really felt like. I was so angry. And I love that you just compared it to Pearl Harbor. Because could you imagine if after Pearl Harbor, we just never went to war and just let Japan have their imperialist nation and they took over China. And so Japan ends up being huge. This giant oppressive imperialist country that's always menacing the world, and Hitler on the other side in control of all of Europe, and we were just like, well, we supplied the Allies as long as they could hold up, but they're gone now. We just have Hitler, Hirohito, and we're just hoping to survive, and just didn't really do much about Pearl Harbor. After a while, you just would want to not even talk about it anymore. But here's another thing. For 16 years, the bad economy, bad everything, the bad decisions the government was making, bad wars, people dying in above what we lost on 9/11.
Trillion
the loss of
spent.
Yeah, the loss of treasury, loss of life, the bad decisions, the economy doing absolutely horrendously during 16 years.
The apology tours that never ended.
Having as one of our solutions to let as many Muslims into the country as possible just because it'll make us feel like they'll like us better somehow.
Pallets of cash to the terror, the guys, Iran,
right.
Pallets of cash to Iran. And Iran took a Navy boat and had them on their knees.
Oh, so you put all that together and then juxtapose that with what Donald Trump is doing with America, and it blindsided me. It totally blindsided me. We had the 17th anniversary of 9/11, and because of what has been happening under Trump, I'm done. I am done with the ringing of the bell, of the reading of and I'm so sorry if you're somebody who either knows somebody that lost somebody in 9/11 or had somebody very close to you lost in 9/11. You should continue to mourn, and we will not forget what happened to them. I will not forget about what happened to them.
I won't forget.
But I'm done with the pomp and circumstance. The fact that it took so long to rebuild the World Trade Center area.
That was a shame. That was a shame.
That's a national
And then the whole
disgrace.
thing about Muslims wanting a mosque nearby.
They almost pulled that off. They were this
Yeah.
close to pulling off having it would have been a victory monument.
For them, yes.
It would have been a victory
yes.
monument.
Yes.
And it would have been a pilgrimage place for Muslims for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, Muslims have been coming as a pilgrimage, and they will anyway.
Yes.
They're going to come there and say, look what we did.
We made them do this.
Yeah, and so the point is the Trump presidency, just the whole new attitude that we have has caused me to have a totally, and I was blindsided by it, totally different attitude about 9/11. And I just realized I'm done with all of the mourning that I did it for 16 years. We're not forgetting. We're not
it's just like
disrespecting the dead.
It's just like World War II vets that have passed, that sacrificed their lives, Vietnam vets, the Korean vets. I mean, all the veterans that are a part of our family that have passed away, maybe not at war, but are now passed away now. Mm-hmm. Every memorial, maybe every other memorial, but we go around and we talk about it.
We visit a grave of a Revolutionary War soldier.
Yes, and we talk. We don't cry. No, there are no tears shed. We're not teary eyed and choked up, but we talk about the history of our lineage and the wars involved, and that's cool. But this whole sobbing and upsetting and crying and tear shedding. I can't do it. And you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of one of my number one pet peeves.
Which is?
Victimhood and people erecting crosses on the side of the road.
That's
forever.
Right. That's right.
Forever. There's one on the freeway. There's interstate.
Well,
not interstate.
There's thousands of them on the freeway.
No, one specifically. 275 at the top of 275 up by Coleraine Avenue. Somewhere up, right coming up to Coleraine Avenue on the east side of Coleraine, so between Coleraine and Winton. There was an accident there, and there's a big makeshift memorial and all these pictures and stuff like that. And I had no idea, and somebody told me, there was an accident there, and everybody got out of the car, and somebody come barreling up, and there are no railings. They're actual cables. Instead of railings, they're cables. And somebody careened off the road after the wreck, hit the cable broke loose and killed a kid. So they put up a makeshift memorial that it's all cardboard and paper and trash, and it's just a lot of trash on the side of the road. And the people who have to cut the grass that work for the government
go around it. I know you got to weed whack that, or else you're gonna have grass growing up right around it. It's gonna look ridiculous.
You've got to heal, and you've got to mourn at the place of mourning, meaning at the cemetery. That's what cemeteries are for.
Right. And that you don't realize it until you start doing this stuff. That is what the cemetery is for. Did we talk about it on the show? About the whole process of burial? I went a long time in my life having not buried any loved ones. Nobody was dying.
We're one of I'm absolutely lucky, folks. I'm lucky, and I understand I'm lucky. I know it. And I cherish that luck, but we have not really had anybody.
Well, we've had people die since my youth, but my entire
when you're older, it's different. When you're in your 90s.
Well, here's what my point is. Here's my point. When I was 4, we buried my grandpa. Actually, I was probably 3. I just turned 4. So I didn't understand death. I was just like, where's the cookies? Running around the funeral home, whatever. And so I didn't understand it. The next person in my family to die wasn't until I was 15 years old. So to me, death and going to funeral and going through that whole process was foreign to me. And also it was fascinating because if I had been doing it periodically throughout my childhood, I wouldn't even think about these things. But the fact that here I am, I'm 15 years old, and I'm like looking at this for the first time in my life that I can remember. And I will tell you, I was fascinated by the what ends up being a process of healing for everyone. You have to go and see their, in most cases, casket open so that you can see that the person is actually dead. And then you go to the cemetery and you actually see the hole 6 foot deep. You see the casket on the hole. And in some cases, some people leave before they do it, but in some cases, watch it get lowered down. This is actually part of a very important and interesting process. Now, we didn't do this when I was 15, but when my wife had someone die, their procedure, probably a bad word for it, but their ritual, they always all go out and have a good time immediately the day of the funeral. So they'll do the whole burial and everything early in the day, and they'll have dinner all together, everybody all together, and they have a good time. They go out of their way, and it's like that's it. So I find it fascinating. The whole thing with crosses on the side of the road is kind of like you're not getting over it.
It is like putting the word victimhood on a gold chain and wearing it around your neck for life.
You're talking about the white letters on the back of the window on the car.
Okay, let me tell you about this. Out in Los Angeles.
Here we go.
Out in Los Angeles, and I've got an answer. I've come to the conclusion of this one.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, if you've seen people with a newer car, not an old car, but it looks like a brand new or a nice car, something real nice, and on the back window it says, "In loving memory of Papa, Mama, Dada, and the years of the death, never forget, and it's a nice car.
Mm-hmm.
They've done that because the money from the inheritance bought the car, and they feel guilty about it.
Oh, I could totally see that. I could see that.
And in L.A., this happens everywhere.
Wow.
Like all these cars, the Hispanic culture, and there's a lot of superstition, there's a lot of things, and so it's just how it all ties up into it. But man, what are you all doing? Stop that. I don't need you to. It's like if I tell a joke about your mom, say just slipping the tongue, just a joke. Oh, man, your mom's so big. When she sits around the house, she sits around the house. And then you're like, how dare you? My mother's dead.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, come on, man. I didn't know. How would I have known that?
Right.
You just made fun of my mom, and I cracked. And then he goes, no, I'm just joshing. My mom ain't dead.
So they literally just did that because they knew you were going to feel bad. I've seen that before.
Don't pull me into your situation.
Right. It just, in a way, and it sounds to me like it makes you look bad in front of somebody like Brian. Not just Brian, but it makes it look like you need that sympathy from him or something.
Yeah, you're asking me to give you love. Don't beg for the love.
Right. Brian will give you love. You don't need to show that everybody, all your loved ones have passed. I mean, Brian will do that without all that.
Yeah, I'm just not a huggy guy. I'm not a touchy. I'm not a hug. We fist bump.
He kisses each side of the cheek. Was that the French or Europeans? They do the kiss on each side.
Italians do that. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Kind of strange.
I do the handshake, and then I go like this, and then I bring the chest in,
and then you kiss on either side of the cheek.
And no, you bring it in, and you hit each other in the chest, and then you both wrap around and you slap the back real hard.
And you don't let go for at least 45 seconds.
Okay, that until it gets real silent and everybody's kind of looking at you.
How long are you going to do this, guys?
Or no, you can feel them pulling away, and you're like pulling them in closer.
Man, that was a weird 9/11 memorial we just did. Remembering 9/11.
No, we're moving on.
Yes, can you see?
We're moving on.
Moving on, folks.
I'm done with
Sorry.
it. So.
Okay, let's get into some good stuff. Well, I got to do the death real quick. One more death thing. Here's it is. Benghazi. The reason why Benghazi is back in the media again is because Barack Hussein Obama.
Well, did he bring it up himself?
Yes. And we are not going. Okay, here it is.
That's an unforced error.
Right. Well, and here's the thing. Because it happened on your watch. See, it would be different if George Bush helped Mitt Romney or John McCain run for office. Or maybe not even John McCain or whatever. But say Bush came out and was helping the midterms, helping Republicans in the midterms. And this was like 2005. And Bush said, oh, the conspiracy theories surrounding 9/11 and the inside job and the Democrats and steel doesn't melt under fire and Alex Jones.
Boy.
I don't know.
The contrails.
The contrails got me. And so, I mean, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That would be totally uncalled for. Am I right?
Yeah.
That would be embarrassing. I would be thoroughly embarrassed if Bush even entertained all the crazy. Just say he took one crazy conspiracy theory and entertained it. I wouldn't be cool with that.
What if he came out and said, I don't think that was a plane that hit the Pentagon. I think it was a missile.
Or if he said, guys, I know there's conspiracy about jet fuel not getting hot enough to melt steel, and just want to
remember the guy that said your argument doesn't matter or whatever. He's the metalsmith heated up that bar.
The blacksmith.
Blacksmith heated up a bar, and it was solid. It wasn't bending or anything like that. But he was able to put the one side in a vise and then use his bare hand, he had a glove on, and just go whoop.
Oh, and I would do that. I went out in L.A. when I had a construction company, and we'd do metal work, all kinds of wrought iron metal work. I'd heat it up real quick with some fire, and I'd put it in a vise, just bend it.
I think he used the word wet noodle. It's a wet noodle.
Yeah.
Your argument's invalid. And then he walks away, throws everything on the ground and walks away. It was a massively viral video.
Right.
Massively. And you know what? Those are the kind of videos that need to go viral.
Right. And so this one needs to go viral because of knuckleheads saying knucklehead things. And so this is, at the very first clip of this is America's Newsroom, Fox News. At the beginning clip, it plays just a few seconds of Obama where he does the step foot in mouth, open mouth, step foot in. And then it transitions back to the newsroom. So here we go. Take a look.
This Congress has championed the unwinding of campaign finance laws to give billionaires outside influence over our politics. Systematically attacked voting rights to make it harder for young people and minorities and the poor to vote. Embraced wild conspiracy theories like those surrounding Benghazi.
Former President Obama slamming GOP lawmakers over what he says is their obsession with the Benghazi attack, calling it.
Now hold on, let me just say something real quick.
I can't believe he brought that up. What a moron!
I didn't even know it was a thing. I thought it was just us screaming on the internet. I didn't know it was a thing. Is it still a thing?
That what was a thing?
Benghazi, I didn't know it was actually still in
the
works. I thought it was over.
People bring it up occasionally, like on Twitter, and of course I'm like, yeah, we shouldn't forget that.
No, that's us. But that's not lawmakers, is it?
No, not that I know of.
Capitol Hill, and I'm going to tell you right now, Capitol Hill lawmakers, y'all, if you're screwing around with this right now, this is over and done. Y'all need to get on a damn Hillary email scandal, the Russian fake dossier, because those people are alive. Get that thing done and lock them up.
Right.
If you're screwing around with Benghazi,
what are they scared of? I guess they're compromised. It's very possible. We know about the Manila envelopes, but
we know for a fact that Obama knew, Hillary knew, and John McCain knew all that they were funneling missiles and rockets and munitions through the embassy into Libya. And this has been a well-known stated fact back before Glenn Beck went crazy cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah, and I just learned this week. Had I learned this at the time, I probably would have gone completely insane and just went straight to D.C. and started picketing or something. But they knew that the attack was coming long before it even started.
Right.
Did you know that?
Yes.
They knew that it was about to happen, and they ended up accidentally releasing information about the video prematurely, accidentally. And then they ended up fixing it by saying, "Oh, well, that's what caused it." So the video was used as fake evidence of a motive,
right?
And somehow the whole thing went down, and the timing was off, and so it proves that they knew that the attack was coming more than 24 hours before it happened. And then it happened, and of course they were like, it's because of the video. But then when you found out from the actual attackers on the ground, they were like, "What video? What are we talking? What? We're just it's 9/11. We're carrying out our mission here. What video are you talking about?"
Right, and the air base that I was stationed on in Aviano, Italy, Aviano, Aviano, Italy, out of the area of Pordenone. Those F-16s out of that base, there are 2 squadrons of F-16s when I was there, the 5 and dime and the triple nickel. Those F-16s could have flown from that base to this area within, I think they said, anywhere from an hour to hour and 45 minutes. And what they would have done, they would not have dropped bombs, they would have not have dropped napalm, and they wouldn't have fired guns in the middle of the night from the F-16s. What they typically do is they fly just above the ground, like literally right at the treetops, and they fly at supersonic speed, which creates an incredible explosion, the sonic boom, which creates an incredible explosion, breaking windows, knocking people to the ground. And this on an absolute well-known, they do this all the time, that when this happens, that mobs of Muslims and terrorists don't know what to think, whether it is a real bomb or it's just a percussion. They can't take that chance, and they scatter like roaches because they're cowards.
Right.
So flying at tree level at supersonic speed, which the F-16 has no problem doing that. It could have gotten there very easily and very fast.
They had so much time. There was so much time wasted. At some point, Hillary probably had a panic attack and said, "Why aren't these people dead yet?"
Well,
she wanted them dead, which is why this went down the way it happened.
I hate to say, okay, there's another story out.
Uh-oh.
The people, the heroes in Benghazi were shipped immediately to Germany and fired and told to find their own way home.
That's almost like being kicked out of the country. They are out of the country.
Yeah.
And find your own way home. What if they couldn't? What if they couldn't? That's like we're deporting our heroes. Like literally deporting our heroes.
Okay. Rest of the story.
A wild conspiracy theory, and that's not sitting well with a lot of folks, particularly those who were there that horrific night. Joining us now is one of the members of the Benghazi Annex security team, John Teagan, who ran toward the consulate as it burned. John, good morning, and thank you for coming on the program this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
How did the former president's comments there sit with you?
You know, it's really not shocking coming from them because it's what they've been doing the whole time. They try to deflect, they try to rewrite everything to make sure it fits their agenda. You know, it's definitely reckless and very disrespectful to the family members. You know, if everybody remembers, you know, they lied to them on the tarmac because their bodies were being brought home about the attack and what happened, why it happened. But again, if it's a conspiracy of what happened there, once you go and ask the family members, you know, how Ron and them feel, because, you know, they can't tell you exactly how they feel because it's not a conspiracy. What happened is what happened. And, you know, the only conspiracy really behind it was their deflection of trying to say it was a protest and over a video. That's where the conspiracy's from.
Mm-hmm. Well, the comments surely, as we can hear, did not sit well with you. They did not sit well with the former Congressman Jason Chaffetz, who suggested that this is the former president, Barack Obama, attempting to rewrite history. Watch.
It was President Obama that took the United States into war with Libya. And in an interview with Chris Wallace on Fox News, President Obama said the worst mistake of his presidency was dealing with the aftermath of Libya. Nobody on the campaign trail brought this up except President Obama, and he is fundamentally and totally and wholly wrong. And people like Tonto and Tig and these people who put their lives on the line and saved dozens of people, shame on the president for saying that.
And something else, folks. How about all those people who survived in the consulate? The people who survived and made it back home, ask them the conspiracies. Ask them what happened. How are we not hearing? How do we not have these names of these people? How are they not making the rounds on the TV? I know I complained about this back then.
They were threatened that they need to remain silent. They were told they must. They were probably given an offer they couldn't refuse and had to remain silent and realized that if they were to ever come out with a story that it could adversely affect their life and their family and everything like that, and just realize, you know what, it's probably the best for me. And it was probably told them this too, you know, we could do this the easy way.
They play ball.
Or we could do this the hard way.
Right.
And they probably told them what's going to happen, what's going to transpire, how this is going to play out if you come out and you tell the truth.
Well, not only that, but if you work for the government and you're there, like I said, when we left the military, we signed a document saying they could come back on our words for 50 years. It's 50 years. They can come back on me for the things I say and do that may jeopardize or violate or have something to do with, in my position was with the F-16s, with the TCTOs, the blueprints and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean, I don't really know anything.
Like you couldn't get out and say, oh, man, I know exactly how this entire system works on this aircraft. I'm going to go ahead and offer to sell what I know to the Chinese.
Or if I did what Bo Bird did and got in with ISIS and the Islam and show them on a map where to drop bombs, where to rocket launchers on the base.
Plus their tactics were improved. Like it used to be, it was like every man for himself, just start shooting the AK-47s randomly, just do whatever you do and don't use any teamwork. That's kind of how they were operating. When Bo Bergdahl defected, he taught them proper military technique and teamwork in order to fight more effectively against Americans. That's
and soft targets.
That is
places
treason.
To hit. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I cannot believe.
You're at war. Yeah.
I cannot believe that he didn't get the death penalty for treason because his actions caused the death of multiple American soldiers. So anyway, I digress.
And so Twitter, on a suspension spree, Twitter decided to go ahead and suspend Chris Paronto, who was part of that team in Benghazi. His tweet he tweeted out and was suspended until he removed the tweet. He tweeted out, "Benghazi is a conspiracy, Barack Obama, ? How about we do this? Let's put your cowardly ASS on the top of a roof with 6 of your buddies and shoot RPGs and AK-47s at you while terrorists lob 81-millimeter mortars, killing 2 of your buddies, all while waiting for U.S. support that you never sent, scum."
Right. I could totally understand his emotion about that, having to live through that and knowing what Barack Obama did in order to make his life so much worse in Benghazi. So much worse.
You know he's still living with that.
Right. And so I totally get that. And of course, the idiots at, was this Twitter or Facebook?
Twitter tweets.
So the idiots at Twitter were like, totally robotically, unapologetically lack of empathy. The total, complete lack of empathy is bordering on sociopathic.
Well, but Kerry, he put the emoji of the middle finger up. And it's tan. It's not like a white or yellow or black or green or red. You can pick all different colors now.
The yellow one is supposed to be the least offensive.
Right. Well, he put up a tan one, like maybe somebody was out in the sun too long. Middle finger emoji.
Was he trying to say that was Barack Obama giving him the middle finger? Something like that? Probably. Well, anyway, he got suspended. And, of course, that's not good PR for Twitter. They're so dumb. They just need to just stop with the abuse and stop with the silencing people for reasons that really boil down to a difference of opinion. And you know, if you're a conservative with a voice, or if you're a conservative that has a good viral response to a liberal, or the first black president who happened to be a Democrat, bam, you're dumb.
Oh, you mean right? I'm sorry. I was thinking of something else. I was thinking.
Well, he was talking specifically to Obama, right?
Yeah, but you said the first black president. That's Bill Clinton.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
They still
That's
ain't
a technicality.
they ain't letting that go.
Technicality.
That's for real.
You mean the Clintons aren't letting that go?
No.
They're trying. They're trying to hold on. They're clinging on to it with their cold, dead hands.
Oh,
so anyway.
wow. All right, so that kind of lends us into this next
Look what somebody puts. Somebody commented.
Oh, Lord, there's a lot of fingers and hands and muscles and arms.
Oh, that's Political Patty is demonstrating the proper use of emojis.
Thank you, Political Patty. That's sweet and awesome.
That's
That is
funny.
hysterical. So on to suspensions, as we talk about suspensions. What's going on with the Google, Carrie?
Oh, so they came out, a video was produced, and it wasn't about the video. It was a conference that was recorded.
And now to let everybody know, you watched the whole thing on advice by Rush Limbaugh,
two people,
and
Scott Adams.
Oh, Scott Adams. Okay,
yeah.
Scott Adams.
They both said it's not going to do you justice to just hear what I have to say about it. You must listen to the whole thing. I was going to do it anyway because Rush recommended it. But when Scott Adams said it, we have two people I respect both saying it, and I just stopped what I was doing. So Scott Adams, sorry, but I actually stopped your scope right then and there and said, all right, I'm finding it.
Done.
So I found it, and I watched the whole thing. I shouldn't say watch it. I was working, so I listened to the whole thing in the earbuds throughout its entirety. So one thing I did miss is since there were several panelists that spoke back to back to back, I wasn't sure how many there were.
There were a total of 6 of them.
Okay, so 6. I listened to all 6 of them. There were times where I couldn't tell who I was listening to, but I was listening to their words. And
listening to them crying.
Listen to them crying. It was it wasn't super surprising, but there were minor details, and this is why you should listen to it yourself to just really wrap your head around what it is that they're thinking, what they're believing. They were talking, and Scott Adams pointed this out, that they were talking as if there was no way there would be a conservative in that large audience. It's probably an audience of about 100 people.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like, and it was they call it a TGIF. It's one of their meetings. They meet every Friday. And it seemed to be they were sitting on a stage. Mm-hmm. There was a company I worked for once a month they had a meeting. And there was a couple of hundred of us, but we were all in the lunchroom. There's no stage, but they had a microphone. This, I'm saying, might be 500. Maybe 500.
Oh, really? Okay.
In like an auditorium or a hall. And
also based on the things that they were saying up on stage, I kind of got the impression that people flew in for this. That it wasn't just, all right, everybody, it's that meeting we were talking about last week. Everybody make sure you get in there, get in the auditorium, we're going to speak. No, it was more of a major event with some major players.
The first Friday after the election.
Right.
Yeah,
so,
this was fresh on their crying eyes. They still hadn't stopped crying.
Another thing, I couldn't tell, especially in retrospect now that we're talking about, I don't think this conference or whatever it was put together specifically because of the election. I think it was an actual business thing that because of the fact that it happened right after a very traumatic election for them, that they just couldn't let it go. It became all about Trump, all about the election, all about the future of the company and the future of how it's going. Their biggest concern is, hey, look, we're Google. We hire a ton of, I guess, green card holders, the H-1B
visas.
Yeah, the H-1B visas. That they have a ton of those people.
And these people who run Google are some of them are first gen, the CEO, first generation refugee type things. I mean, we're talking about people from other countries with other ideologies who never, ever assimilated to American ideologies, American values, and the American way of life. We are now seeing
that they know
proof.
Of. They may have assimilated to what the Democrats have been teaching everybody all
which
these
is
years.
not what the way of American life is to be.
No. Another thing I noticed was Scott Adams pointed out he thought it was funny that the leaders up at the front that were speaking, it never occurred to them that there could possibly be a Trump supporter out there. But one thing I noticed was these are the smartest people on earth in their field. by far, because if you are smart enough, you can work for Google and be in the leadership and fly in for that conference and listen to the president and everybody talk, the president of the company. And or the CEO.
Yeah, not Trump. Trump ain't allowed in there.
Yeah, apparently. And I couldn't believe how dumb. We always say this. You have to be pretty dumb to believe some of the fake news that comes out. These guys were so bought in to the fake news, such as, in particular, that Trump is going to come in and just start hauling out foreigners, the H-1B visa, the green card holders, whatever. If you are not an American citizen, we're going to come in and we're going to perp walk you right out of every single business in all of America, and we're not going to let you in because we're going to end these programs that allow them to come in America. So they were talking like extensively about, if you're one of these people, don't worry, we take care of our people. If we need to move you to Canada so that you can continue to work for us, we have offices in Canada. This was seriously discussed. That these things that you're going to be put off into a labor camp or something like that, they were buying into the fake news 100%, especially that he's a racist or a bigot, that you could start to feel or actually experience persecution. They totally bought into this.
Two things. Now that you said that real quick, I wasn't going to bring this up, but on the note of you saying they're so smart I can't believe, I'll get to that in a second. You know how when you open up your phone at the house and you can see the internets that you can connect to, the Wi-Fis you can connect to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, my Wi-Fis, they say, they're pro-Trump. I'm just saying, okay? So,
right. It says stuff like just one of them was called Trump or something.
One of them used to be called CIA surveillance, man.
Well, mine is still called that.
Oh, okay.
CIA surveillance.
And so apparently either somebody in my neighborhood close enough to me that I'm picking up their Wi-Fi, this just happened. Apparently somebody close enough to me has renamed their Wi-Fi Trump for Prison.
Oh, for crap's sake. So you think that they're trying to communicate with you?
I think they are.
Oh, boy.
I think they are. So anyways.
So you should rename yours.
Hillary for Prison.
Hillary for Prison, or you're an idiot for thinking that, or something stupid like that.
Trump haters.
No, hate go back and forth like text.
Love Trump's hate. Love Trump's hate.
That was a really dumb
He might
one.
not get that. Anyway, so back to the other thing. These people in Silicon Valley are so smart. But you've probably heard of this analogy before, and I feel like it rings absolutely true. When you're born, God gives you like 100 coins, and those 100 coins. And everybody gets the exact same amount of coinage.
Mm-hmm.
Those 100 coins, before you come out of your mother's womb, you get to go to the Shop of Life mall. And you can walk around that mall and you can spend your coins on things. You could spend your coins on looks. You could spend your coins on intelligence. You can spend your coins on all different types of things to make up who you are. This is just theoretical, folks.
Assuming that it was you making these decisions.
Correct. And some people, and this kind of, some people, like the hottest of hottest chicks, what's her face? With the
we naming names?
Oh, no, Paris Hilton.
Oh, yeah. I'm not attracted to her, by the way. But anyway.
Carrie.
Okay,
this is my
you're
analogy,
right. She's the hottest.
not yours.
She's the hottest. Okay, she's the hottest.
She spent all her coinage on looks and the family she was born into.
Wait, so you're saying she can't afford the other things?
She didn't spend no money on intelligence.
Oh, wow.
Or common sense. And so they get, so same thing with these people out in Silicon Valley. They spent all their money on tech geeky intelligence stuff, which then leaves them to pick up the lack of political savvy, the ability to see the forest for the trees, the ability to read into certain things and not buy into fake news. And they bypassed on the looks and stuff. But I'm just saying. Everybody's got that ability. And so when you find somebody who's well-rounded, they spent their coins on the right place at the right time, It all worked out.
They diversified their portfolio.
Yes!
Okay.
Yes! So I don't know if you've ever heard that analogy before, but I heard that way back when I was a kid. And
Okay.
Because we'd look at a girl in high school and be like, oh, man, she spent all her money on the looks.
And she turns out to be a total jerk or
You
something.
You ever talk to her?
Or dumb or something like that. Yeah.
So that's what we got here at the Google, and I was all over Breitbart News this week, folks. And so Breitbart News posted this up, said they vow to save the world from catastrophic nationalism. That's exactly
catastrophic nationalism.
But because it's speaking of them, they're putting the words in. They're speaking as if they are them.
Mm-hmm.
They're projecting.
Okay.
They're projecting for them because that's what this whole talk was about. The catastrophic nationalism is going to take over America.
They actually did use that phrase now that I think about it. So here's another thing that I thought was really disturbing about the Google talk now that you're jogging my memory with the catastrophic nationalism. I used to think that they called us Nazis because they just thought that was the worst thing that you could call somebody. And they're just using ad hominem to argue, which of course we know is a logical fallacy. And so I just thought, they have nothing left, so they got to call us a Nazi. It turns out that they said this, and when I say they, it was one of the speakers. One of the speakers pointed out that nationalism rises and falls over time, and it just so happens that it rose up to probably a peak in the 30s, and then, of course, fell because they lost in World War II, but then rise at other occasions, and it rises and falls. And he pointed out that it's clear based on the election of Donald Trump that nationalism has risen and is at the top right now. And here's what's disturbing about this whole line of thinking is that they don't just call us Nazis because that's all they got left and they just want to slander us anyway. They actually think we're literally Hitler. They really actually believe that. And they're going to try to combat it through coding in algorithms and Google. They really think that, well, here we go, guys. I wish we could have gotten rid of nationalism. And by the way, Hitler was evil. He was easily one of the most evil people right underneath all the communist leaders that killed way more people than him.
Ungodly.
Right. So it's what socialism does. But the problem with these people that are supposed to be the smartest people on earth is they ignorantly and stupidly, you have to be so dim-witted to think that, well, the reason Hitler was the way he was can be attributed all to one thing, and that was that he was a nationalist. Literally, that's what they're saying. Well, and now that we have nationalism again,
right?
Oh my gosh, we are talking about literally Hitler. And this is my takeaway from it, guys. And you may not get that same conclusion. You may not come to that same conclusion, but you'll come close to it on that particular thing.
Look at the Antifa that we actually talked to and engaged with.
Yeah, they truly
Look how
believe
dumb
it.
that. I mean, I'm not saying dumb and ignorant to put you down. I'm saying dumb and ignorant because you need to get to learning. It's like my dad fat shamed me. And I told my millennial about it, and my millennial about it. And so my dad killed two birds with one stone. I lost weight, and my millennial, he got triggered too. And he lost weight. I lost 22 pounds. My millennial lost 17. But see,
You should have shamed him because he needs to gain some weight. I'm telling you. Your dad needs to gain some weight. I'm just saying.
No, he's loving the weight that he's at. Yeah. Anyway, so
his thighs are smaller around than his knees.
No, that's how he is.
Sorry, Uncle Dale.
No, but the thing about these fascists, I'm trying to fat shame you into getting some knowledge, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, I'm glad that you kept on pressing those Antifa guys there because you're right, just like these Google people. And by the way, I kind of felt like we were really in an unfair fight with the one guy.
The heavyset guy that you saw at the very end, who yelled it? Somebody, was it you that said, I see him. couple years from now, he's a Trump supporter right there.
Oh, it was a commenter. I was scoping it, and the commenter said, and I it was too bright out. I couldn't read who it was, but I could make out what they wrote in the comment, and it was that you're looking at a future Trump supporter there. They said give him a week. They said give him a week. I was like, wow, a week. This guy's very ambitious and positive thinking. I love it.
When they met us, they did not know. It was like when Christopher Columbus or the white Americans landed on the indigenous people's lands and didn't speak the words whatsoever, and nobody could see the ships out on the horizon of the shore because they'd never seen a ship before, ever. And the witch doctor kept telling them, "There, it's out there. I see it." And over a week and a half, he kept telling them, "There's something out there." And eventually, the people believed it enough that they could eventually see the ships out on the horizon. If you've never seen somebody like Carrie and I before,
they were really unprepared.
When we show up and say, "Hey, what's up, brah?"
They were so unprepared. They couldn't believe
this pump.
Yeah. Well, they couldn't believe that we were civilized. We were going to be nice. We were going to listen to them. We listened to them
all day.
And when they said what they said, we not only rejected it and pushed back on it, but we won the argument.
We were very polite
with reason and facts. And then they had nothing left. They couldn't even respond, so they kind of walked away. But anyway. So yeah, the Google people. So this is the point. Google people, supposed to be the smartest people in the world. We're talking to these people that I honestly felt when we were talking to the Antifa people in St. Louis. It was pretty obvious that there was an intellectual advantage on our part, and
I started feeling guilty.
Right, so we didn't beat up on them too bad, but that's how I felt. But think about it. The smartest people on earth are basically coming to the same conclusion the reason Hitler was the way he was because of the nationalism.
Right.
And it's so wrong, and it's not just wrong, but it's easy to figure out that it's wrong, or at least there could be many, many other factors.
You would think. So Google on purposely donating to Hillary Clinton's campaign, Google on purposely supporting Hillary Clinton, Google on purposely believing that they could trick the Hispanic population, and something that they didn't know that Budweiser found out very quickly, that if you befriend the Hispanic population and you give them something of quality, if you will, and you cozy up to them and you hook them as a consumer, they're the number one demographic in the world that is the most loyal consumer in the world to that product.
So under the category of loyalty, they're the number one.
Yes. Okay. And Google didn't realize that. I don't think they have any clue about that because they attempted to railroad them and run them down, in the sense that they didn't try and woo them. They tried to trick them. And all of a sudden, and they were shock and awe, that 38% of the Hispanic community came out for a resounding Trump vote, and they were shocked.
I didn't know the percent was that high. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
it's going to be that high for the black community next election too.
I'm waiting
2020.
I'm waiting for that. So Mark Dice, I like playing dice because it makes me laugh. Mark Dice did this is a 42-second clip of Mark Dice making fun of these jokers at the Google. Oh, why do I keep doing that?
You have to rewind it.
Studio interview with Sloppy Daniels lawyer Michael Avenatti last night when he put this as the description.
Okay. Sorry. Good Lord, Mr. Producer.
What did you press?
Okay.
A secret confidential video from inside Google has been leaked to Breitbart showing the company's top executives sitting around for a full hour just days after the 2016 presidential election, almost in tears that Donald Trump won.
Yep.
Here's the co-founder, Sergey Brin, who's worth over $50 billion, addressing the employees at the start of the meeting.
I know this is probably not the most joyous TGIF we have had. Let's face it, most people here are pretty upset and pretty sad because of the election. As an immigrant and a refugee, I certainly find this election deeply offensive. And
offensive?
I know many of you do too.
You better. Did you see that look on his face?
It's a very stressful time, and it conflicts with many of our values.
Okay, listen to that. Many of his values, not American values. You got to listen to those words very closely. Not American values. Their old world, third world values, Islamic values.
I'm sorry, but what values? You guys just got rid of your motto, don't be evil, literally removing it from your code of conduct, which was in there since the founding of your company.
So his values is evil.
Like,
the values are to be evil.
Right.
This meeting took place the first Friday after the election, and it looks like they have regular meetings on Friday. They call them TGIF. And the entire 1 hour session was the top executives at Google all complaining and almost crying about the election.
But certainly confronting it firsthand is pretty upsetting. And secondly, confronting the reality of an administration that's now forming. And look, we have no idea what it's going to do, is the honest truth. Like, we have no idea what direction.
Because they don't know nationalism. They don't know the American way. They don't know the American values.
They don't know the Constitution.
He's guessing of something he doesn't know anything about.
This country will take.
He's clueless.
I'll tell you what direction this administration is going to take this country. We're going to make America great again. And sorry that hurts your feelings, you globalist scum. Let's hear what the CEO, Sundar Pichai, has to say, who is also, of course, a billionaire.
Good to see all of you here. I'm glad we're getting together at a moment like this. It's been an extraordinarily stressful time, I'm sure, for many of you. The outcome, in a two-party system with a lot of polarization in the country, it's a deeply divided country.
That's because of the Democrats. Just want to let you know, man.
He's making stupid excuses anyway.
And you have a binary outcome.
Binary.
There is no easy way through
Boolean.
this.
It's a Boolean
And
outcome.
Historically, all political processes are stressful and tough, particularly if the outcome is not what you hope for. On top of that, I think all of us would agree this election was particularly hard.
That election was particularly hard. I was working 12 to 14 hours a day, doing everything that I could to make sure that Donald Trump won.
Me too.
This goes on and on with over half a dozen of the company's top executives, all sounding like they're speaking at a funeral. And then came questions and comments from the employees, with this man trying to win a trophy for best virtue signaling.
Speaking to white men, there's an opportunity for you right now to understand your privilege in the society.
Okay, for those of you audio only, he is a big giant white guy looking at he's reading this off as if he had written this, and he's reading it off his phone.
Take the opportunity to go through the bias-busting training, read about privilege, read about the real history of oppression in our country.
Shut up.
And tomorrow night, watch 13th, the movie that is here. If you can't watch it here, watch it on Netflix.
Who paid
Discuss the issues you are passionate about during Thanksgiving dinner, and don't back down and laugh it off when you hear the voice of oppression speak through metaphors, and I promise to do this.
That is so pathetic. Find his name. We need to give him a raise. Literally, that almost seems like that's what he was doing that for.
They have no idea what the American values are, folks. They have no idea. And we're going to end this on a very good note. We're really running up against time real quick. So I'm going to fast forward this real fast. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's his economy. First off, Donald Trump's, you know what? I need to play this. If nothing else, you need to hear at least this much from The Economist.
Yes, what credit, if any, does former President Obama deserve for the current state of the economy?
Okay, what credit, if any, does Obama deserve for the current economy? Here's the answer. Epic answer.
I think that attributing blame or credit to individuals requires that I identify policies and then talk about, well, what effect did this policy or that policy have? And I prefer to give blame or credit to policies than to individuals. I think that President Obama sometimes on the partisan trail gets criticized with numbers that are clearly incorrect because people blame him for the Great Recession, which was there when he started, and it's not fair. If I look specifically at President Obama's policies, there are a whole bunch of policies policies that I think were very negative for growth. I think the Affordable Care Act lifted marginal tax rates on individual workers, so much so that the CBO even said that it would have a negative effect on growth. He increased marginal tax rates on small businesses, and that's why small business creation wasn't so high. And so I could look at a lot of policies, and we could talk about them one by one and say, did they help or hurt growth? I think he also advocated policies that he said would help growth that clearly did not. Mm-hmm. And really, I kind of wonder about what was going on in the heads of the economists that told them they would, like cash for clunkers and so on. That really,
they're Marxists.
I totally forgot about cash for clunkers. Barack Obama almost single-handedly destroyed the used car sales.
Yeah, didn't have much effect at all. But to say he destroyed the economy or something like that, that's not what the CEA chair should be doing. And one of the hypotheses that's been floating around about the economy lately is that the strong economy that we're seeing is just a continuation of recent trends. And, since we're the nerds at the White House, we decided that this is a testable hypothesis. And so that what we can do is we can go out and we can estimate recent trends, that is, trends that ran in the economy up to the point of the last election, and then compare the latest data to the recent trends. In most cases, by the way, the estimates of the trends that we present to you here are very statistically significant, as are the deviations from the trend. And so now I'm going to, as I always do, show you a few slides. Could I have the next slide, please?
Oh, my gosh, this is like the Cuban Missile Crisis.
There we go.
Oh.
So the first slide that we're looking at is small business optimism.
Okay, so you're looking at small business optimism. The first blue line that's really low is Barack Obama from 2012 to 2016. The red line that shoots to the top of the page is Donald Trump's, and it's complete stark contrast to what Obama's was. Now you've got business investment up more than $300 billion.
Look at this graph.
Over the trend, the blue line is Obama from 2012 to 2017. It literally creates a chasm because the other side of the ravine is a red line for Trump that's going straight back up into the air. The other one capital goods orders and shipments. Capital goods, they're ordering, and their shipments that have been placed. The blue line, Barack Obama, clearly going in the tank.
And we could feel that, too, we were living it.
The red line clearly going back up under Trump. And there you go. You see the chart there. And this one, business conditions have improved sharply. You see the business conditions, how under Barack Obama it's flat and stagnant, and then under Trump it starts to rise higher than it ever was under Barack Obama. And as we keep going,
or at least in his last 4 years, yeah. Oh, you could see.
This is a very fancy. I didn't even think about this. When you form a business or corporation, you apply for an EIN, an employee identification number. It's your tax ID for your corporation. New business applications have surged because they're applying for new tax ID numbers, which the trend is clearly going up from what the trend should have been, which was continue on like a flatline schedule. This is something I just didn't even think about, but these nerds, man, I just love them. I love him because he called himself a nerd, so that's good. Prime age workers are re-entering the labor force and finding jobs. This beats the trend as well. And then
now it doesn't look like it beats it by much, but he did point out right before he started this slideshow
what's the
that
trend?
They are statistically significant, including standard deviations.
Right. And this one, blue-collar jobs grew 3.3% in the year through July, fastest since 1984. You can see the blue line from 2012 to 2017 taking a dive, and then 2017 till 2018 going back up as high as it was, at least as high as it was before. That is a very positive, big trend moving forward. That's a good thing, very good thing. And then lastly, I'll let it play on this one.
Could I have a look at my final chart here? I know. I heard this sigh of relief when I said final chart.
Hold on. This was 11 minutes long.
Wow.
So if you look at the final chart, you'll see that the black line is in June of 2017, what the CBO, a Congressional Budget Office, a nonpartisan agency that has a job really of looking at recent trends and projecting it, what they said would happen to capital spending back in 2017.
So they said capital spending would dive down sharply in 2017, and then
blue line is what they said in April 2018, and the red line is what's actually happened.
And so the blue line's the lowest, the gray line's in the middle, and the actual red line is on top, pretty far up.
And these are projections.
And
so
I would
yeah.
assume that if you look at the collective body of evidence, the notion that what we're seeing right now is just a continuation of recent trends is not super defensible.
And he made a comment at one time. He said, if you're buying this or you're selling this and you're in college, you're certainly not going to pass.
Oh, wow. Yeah. One last thing before you ring the bell. Guys, first thing, I think it's either tomorrow or Tuesday, James O'Keefe is releasing hidden video that's going to expose the deep state. This could be explosive. His other hidden videos were attacking companies that are significant to our lives, which is why they were interesting and important to us. This is the deep state, folks. This should be interesting.
He's naming names of government officials, and also Mike Cernovich has got a new movie out that might be pretty good, folks. We got to see it over the weekend. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
I liked it.
Yep.
I was surprised. Like I didn't like it because it was saying what I wanted it to say. I liked it because it was better than what I expected.
Yes, it was definitely better than what I expected, for sure. Share this with your friends and families. Airware all around the horn, Twitter, Facebook. Our numbers, our population, the amount of people that are commenting are huge, folks. Everybody's looking for real news.
And make sure that you're supporting real news. You can do that for us at patreon.com/SmythRadio.
With unfathomable power.
What kind of power?
Unfathomable. It's without fathom.